Welcome. There we go. We'll do it right this time. Welcome to Hockey Time Machine. We are so happy to have you all joining us. It's our inaugural broadcast here on Facebook and YouTube, and it's a whole new thing. Although the program isn't new by any means, the program has been going on since April. But here we are, and we tried something new. We were limited by the number of people that we could have on the show before. On the Zoom calls, we could have 100 people, and we were maxed out. And it was a perennial problem for our producers who were hearing, hey, why not me? Why can't I be part of this? I missed it this week. How come I wasn't allowed? So we've tried something new, and here we are. YouTube, Facebook, and here we are with our inaugural program with a brand new name for the show, which we never had before. It's Hockey Time Machine. So thank you all for joining us so much. You'll find that it's a little bit easier to use. We're finding that we can have a whole lot more people involved as well, and we hope that you'll tell your friends if you enjoy what you're doing here. And if you don't enjoy, don't say a word to anybody, okay? So there we go. There's a whole team of people that go into this. I really want to thank everybody before we get into things. The idea came from Laura Evans and Paul Patskow originally, going back to the beginning of the pandemic, and a way for the community to huddle together and still be involved in hockey without having the games being played. So it started off very minimally, very organically, with 7 or 8 people talking about new artifacts they found or things that were going on in their life at that point. And we found when we introduced themes that all of a sudden it engendered a whole lot more interest. And we've had all kinds of themes, from Hockey Night in Canada to daughters of NHL players to Washington Capitals. And tonight, on the advice of Paul Stewart, we've got one called, we've got Tales of the Men in Stripes. Paul came to us and said, hey, why don't you do something with the officials? And we thought, absolutely, let's do exactly that. So we're doing that, Tales of the Men in Stripes, as it were. So today, I'd like to introduce you to Kerry Fraser, Ron Hoggarth, and Paul Stewart as well. And they're going to talk to us today about the paths that led them to the NHL, some of the experiences they had while they were there, the good, the bad, occasionally the ugly, what they're doing today as well. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. Really, really pleased to have you join us. So I'm going to start with you, Kerry, if you don't mind. First off, I got to find out where you're with us today from.
We're beaming in from Aruba. There's no ice other than in the glass. So we're down here for an extended period, a month, COVID-free. Got the vaccine, Kath and I, before we got on the flight this morning, yesterday. So we're looking forward to having our kids and grandkids join us down here at various intervals. It's our favorite spot in the world. It's called One Happy Island. So we're down here 3 times a year, and this stint is going to be a month.
Sorry, gentlemen, just lost Kevin for a second. So if you want to go around and Hoagie.
Well, I'll tell you what. I can finish off his question if you wish.
Please.
How we got started is the question. I know we have all different avenues. I played junior hockey in Ontario in 1972 as the captain of the Sarnia Bees in the Southern Ontario Junior A League. Al and the Detroit Junior Red Wings were in that loop, and I was a good little player. My dad played in the International Hockey League, and Paul Stewart will be happy to know that my father was a registered goon. He was a tough hombre. He had arms like Popeye, forearms like Popeye. He was also a boxer. We played AAA midget for Dad. He coached for 3 years. We won Ontario championships. We had 5 guys that went on to play in the NHL. Wayne Merrick, 5 cups with the New York Islanders. Bob Neely, first pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jamie Hislop. We had Jerry Butler. So some really good players. But I was the guy that Dad tapped on the shoulder because he taught me how to fight in the kitchen when I was about 12, 13 years old. And he put my hands up and he'd give me a whack and knock me down. He said, no, you got to get your hands up. and I was a southpaw. So anyway, I could fight a little better scared than they could mad, and I was his designated guy. I can tell you, I disliked the guys that were the intimidators, the guys that were police, whether it was in the schoolyard or on the ice. So I know that if Stewie and I had to play junior against each other, we would have definitely come to blows. And I maintain it's easier to punch up than it is down. I just wasn't good
Kerry,
enough to make it. I wasn't good enough to play in the NHL. I had a whole bunch of college D1 scholarship offers, but I was I was at a crossroad. What do I do now? I could have played in the minor pro leagues. I had invitations to go there, but Ted Garvin was a friend. He was coaching in the IHL at the time, and he coached Detroit Junior Red Wings for a bit. And Ted came to me that summer and he said, "Listen, why don't you get into officiating?" He said, "You're a good little player. You play tough. You're not gonna make it to the NFL. You're gonna get crushed. So here's a referee school brochure. Why don't you go to get into officiating?" And Ron Hoggarth was one of the supervisors at that Halliburton Hockey Haven School of Officiating. And it was Bill Friday and there was Buffy and all those guys, Brian Lewis and John McCauley, NHL officials. Well, it was a 5-day camp. I never wanted to be an official. Who in their right mind would? But I paid the money and I went for the week and I really applied myself. And on the Thursday night, the night before camp broke, I refereed 10 minutes of a men's intermediate hockey game that I was being supervised by Hoagie and the boys. Well, I came off the ice after 10 minutes, and Frank Udvari, Hockey Hall of Fame, assistant director of officiating, was waiting for me in the dressing room. He said, "I really like what I saw out there, and I'd like to invite you to the NHL training camp for officials. It's going to happen in 2 days, and I've got to check and see if there's space for you. I've got to get a hold of Scotty Morrison." He said, "If there's room, I'll call you. There's one thing I want you to do." And I had a beetle cut with the hair over my ears. I said, "What is it, sir? Anything?" He said, "You need to get a haircut." I said, "Absolutely." So that was my first hair deal. But I got a call on got home Friday night from Halliburton, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. The phone rang. It was Mr. Udbury on the phone. He said, "We're all set. We got a space for you. You need to report tomorrow, Sunday, 6 o'clock, and you're there 10 days, and this is what you bring." And it was the regular camp. Now, I was so excited. I didn't hear the part that it was 6 p.m. I left early, like 5 in the morning, and I was 4 in the morning from Sarnia, drove to Toronto. I was checking in all proud, like, Kerry Fraser, NHL officials training camp. And the guy looked at me and said, "What are you doing here so early? You're not supposed to be here till 6 o'clock tonight." They didn't have a room for me, so I had to go lay on the couch in the front hall and go to sleep. Great experience, though. Great experience.
Very, very good. Ron, I'm going to move over to you. You grew up in a little place called Ivy, just outside of Barrie. Pretty good hockey player too, but you also played baseball. Maybe you can talk about the tug of war that was going on in your head, your heart, between hockey and baseball at that time, Ron.
Well, my dad was a much better athlete than I was. As a matter of fact, he played in the Pony League, which is in upstate New York, and we played in intercounty baseball. I was a pitcher when I was 16 years old and a hockey player. I thought I was going to be an athlete. Wasn't sure what I'm going to do, so I ended up just playing junior hockey in Barrie. I'm kind of born and raised Ivy, but lived in Barrie and went to school there. I had a scholarship at Cornell. And I remember my dad and I driving down to Cornell, and we for the weekend, and he kind of said, "Well, it's a scholarship, but it's going to cost me like $5,000 a year." And I went, "I don't think that's in our budget, Dad." And my uncle was the dean of students at Queen's University, and he said, "If you're going to stay in Canada, you're better to get a degree in Canada." So I didn't go to Queen's. I ended up going to McMaster University. And played there. Before that, I had went to New York Rangers, actually Kitchener Rangers, which was a New York Rangers training camp back then. I'm old enough to, I don't remember, I signed a C card with the Rangers. Yeah, I wasn't drafted, but I was property of the New York Rangers, and you got nothing for it, but they had everything for you. And so I ended up going to university, playing. I played varsity hockey with McMaster, and I was a poor, starving student. I actually got married. Had a young girl at the time, Kelly's now 52, as a matter of fact, my oldest daughter. And so I was a poor, starving student going to university. And so I started, refereeing kids hockey, men's hockey in the Hamilton area. As a matter of fact, I even did DeFasco broom ball at 7 o'clock in the morning, if you imagine, just to, be on the ice and make some money. I would be at class at 9 o'clock in the morning, go to class to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then go referee again, some more, high school hockey or men's hockey, playing with the McMaster Marlins. So I had a busy time. And when I graduated, I had actually about halfway through university with the OHA, I went to a training camp for the OHA in Guelph, as a matter of fact. And I sat beside this guy named Bob Hodges. Him and I had never met each other. We were sitting beside, and we kind of struck it off, so it was good. I was very fortunate at that time. So I got into the OHA, and as a linesman, living right in Burlington and Hamilton. So all the referees would come through and pick me up, go to St. Catharines or go to Niagara Falls, or go to all the junior games, and it was great. We had a couple of referees out of Hamilton that we'd drive to Kingston on a Sunday afternoon. We'd leave all the way to Kingston and back, and I'd get $7.50 to work the lines. And then on the way back, the referee, Jack Clancy, he was a fireman. He would sit in the front of his car and smoke cigars the whole way through. So all we could see is the smoke coming back. But he was good. He brought the sandwiches, so I didn't have, on my $7.50, I didn't have to, break in. But other than that, it was the same thing, Kerry. I actually got an invitation to the Haliburton Hockey Haven. We went there. Scotty Morrison was there, and Vern Buffy, some of the guys. And I got an invitation to training camp. At that time, in 1971, when I was at training camp, there was 60 guys from all over North America. And out of that 60 guys, Andy Van Helleman, myself, Swede Knox, Ray Scampanello, Gerard Gauthier, and Charlie Banfield, we all got signed up that year. As a matter of fact, two of the guys from 71 are in the Hall of Fame. So, becoming a poor, starving student. Matter of fact, I graduated from university with no student loans, and it was all about refereeing hockey, and I got a job and a career. And I think just the good part, I remember the first time going into Scotty Morrison, we kind of contacted Scotty. Scotty's 91, guys, believe it or not now. And he was my boss. He walked in, and you had to sit in his chair in his office. Scotty wasn't very tall, and you sat in the chair. It was like about an inch and a half off the ground, and you're looking up at Scotty, who's like 5'6", and he said, "Sign here." My first contract was $7,500, plus I got a $500 bonus for refereeing hockey. I thought I had made the world. The next year I went in to see Scotty, and he says, "Sit down, Ron." I said, "Not a chance." So I stood the whole time, and he said, "Sit down." I said, "Not a chance." So we negotiated, and we bargained hard from there on. So that's how I got my start.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Paul, you took a little bit different route, but let's step back for a second and talk about your DNA. It's a well-known fact, but it's a great fact that your grandfather was actually in the NHL as a coach. He was also an umpire in baseball. Can you tell us a little bit about Grandpa Bill Stewart?
Well, he was a pitcher in the Chicago White Sox organization, and actually was pitching in Montreal at the outbreak of World War I. And he was the first professional ball player to resign and enlist in the military. He met my grandmother, who was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Her sister was the head of Sisters of Charity, and he met her in Montreal, and they married. They settled in Boston. My grandfather in the wintertime would come back from baseball, and he was the manager working for Mr. Walter Brown, who was the founder of the Boston Celtics and was the president of the Boston Garden. he would work for him at the Boston Arena, which is where the Bruins played before they built Boston Garden. And in the summer, he would go back to baseball. He injured his shoulder. He started umpiring. He did 22 years in the National League. He did 4 World Series. He did 4 All-Star games. And he was a guy that was a pretty tough fella. He got his job because 5 or 6 people had jumped him in a game in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he knocked out several of them. And he was hired by the president of the National League. In the winter, as I say, he was working at the arena, and referees didn't show up. And he was coaching. He was coaching BU and Milton Academy and MIT. Back then, the coaches could play, and he was playing goaltender for them. And I guess the referees didn't show up, and he started officiating, and he was hired by the NHL as a referee. He was working in the Can-Am League before that, which was, I think, Sherbrooke and Moncton and New Haven and several other teams. And he picked up the officiating probably more for the economics, the money. But he got hired by the National League. And along the way, one day in Chicago, the owner heard him tell Frankie Frisch to get back in the dugout, and he had seen him refereeing. And the owner of Chicago Blackhawks said, I need a guy like him. He was putting together a team of All-Americans. He had 9, and he had my grandfather coach, and they won the Stanley Cup, beating Montreal and Toronto. And, we're proud of that guy. My dad, in the meantime, his only child, ended up at Notre Dame, went into the Army Air Force, came back and coached 3 sports in high school. And if Hoagie, you'd gone to Cornell, he would have reffed your games. I told a story today to someone that back in 1962, my dad refereed a football game at Cornell, and then when the game was over, we were sitting on the tailgate of the station wagon. We ate some tuna sandwiches and a few Cokes, and my father took his football bag and he threw it in the car, and he put the cooler back in the car. He said, it's time to go, and he reached in and grabbed his hockey bag, and he walked in, and he was the referee for the Cornell McMaster game, and I was the stick boy, where I'd been chasing Gogolak's balls all over the stadium at 1 o'clock, at 7 o'clock. I was working for Ned Harkness. It's funny because I played 3 sports, football, hockey, and baseball. My dad coached 3 sports. My grandfather was good in several sports. He also was a track guy. He beat Jim Thorpe in a race in Boston in 1912, which is documented. And I guess athletics came to us fairly well and fairly easy. I had to work at it. And hockey was not my best game. I had a full ride to play college football at Lafayette. They wanted me as a linebacker. And in baseball, I led my teams in hitting. And I had an invite to Cincinnati to try out there. And Sparky Anderson, when I ended up playing pro hockey in Cincinnati, said to me, kid, you could have made it. I said, yeah, I was a catcher, though. Didn't you have that guy named Bench? But hockey was the greater challenge. I ended up playing in college. I played with Jamie Hislop. Kerry mentioned him. 2 years in Cincinnati. I played against him when he was at University of New Hampshire. My section of hockey, or the portion I was allowed to have, was I was the physical guy. I was a big kid, and I could fight. I used to spar with Marvin Hagler, and I trained with Joe Fraser in Philadelphia. I took karate. I took a lot of different venues and I grew up in a tough neighborhood where the Wahlburgers come from, Dorchester, and you only had 2 ways to go home at night. You after school, you'd go River Street. You'd have to fight the kids from those projects, and if you went Morton Street, they'd steal your lunch money and your coat. So being able to defend myself, and as Hoagie knows, it was pretty much the portion that I was left. I wasn't playing too much in college my junior year. My senior year, I was told I was not going to play. And Bob Kelly with the Flyers, they practiced at our rink, and I was the rink manager there, driving the Zamboni and sharpening skates and all that. He said to me, pick the worst team in the worst league and go from there. Well, there were 2 guys that I knew, Steve Sterling and Richie Hart, were playing for Binghamton. And they were the worst team in the league. And I bought a $14 bus ticket, and I walked in and asked them for a tryout. And I got $250 a week. And I had that year 44 majors in 46 games, and I set the record. Paul Newman put me in the movie Slapshot. He looked at me. I was missing teeth. I had stitches. And I said, how am I doing? He goes, you're perfect. You're in. And but I went on from there. I got an opportunity to, the only draft I had to worry about was when Nixon sent me that letter to go to Vietnam. But I ended up with the Rangers. I then went to the WHA, and I played finally in the National League for Jacques Demers, who I had played for in Cincinnati. And I got to play in Boston. I had a hat trick my first night in Boston. Hard to believe. It wasn't the typical hat trick. It was I fought Terry O'Reilly, Stan Jonathan, and Al Secord in a row. And a lot of people say, what kind of hat trick's that? I said, well, it's a Dorchester hat trick. And it's funny because I had a stick fight with Cashman in the warm-up. Well, here we go. And this was a pretty good fight. And Stanley, when they closed the garden, said I was the toughest guy he ever faced. And I think that it was like getting the Congressional Medal of Honor from truly a good guy. I got him good right there. I stunned him a little bit. So he pulls me in. He said, you cut me. I said, a million guys have cut me. Don't worry about it. But the glory fades. And I went through some hard times. I was coaching high school. I was a policeman. I was selling cars. I was doing everything to try to find my niche. And I was refereeing hockey, youth hockey, $5 a game, hoisting kids over the boards. And it was funny. Somebody said to me, you should go to the pros. That's where you have that game. So I wasn't getting a chance to work American college hockey. Because of my dastardly reputation. And so I ended up, I called Scotty Morrison up. And he had met me a few years before, I think after a Firebird game where I got tossed out of that one too, Hoagie. And he said to me, he knew my grandfather, and he said, someday when you give up the playing, why don't you look us up? So I gave him a call. And like Hoagie and Kerry, I ended up at Bruce Hood's school in Milton, Ontario. And there were guys there, Frank Advari and Lou Maschio and Scotty, and of course the great John McCauley. John D'Amico was there, and it was Mark Perret, and I just was so in awe of being there. And I got invited to NHL camp, and McCauley, on my 37th game in 39 nights, when he ran into me, I was in Calgary working a Centennial game. He said to me, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to make you a referee. And he stuck with me. And one night in Boston, I was watching the game, and McCauley and I were reaching into the same popcorn box, and Stickle and Ron Asseltine were working with Dave Newell, God rest his soul. And Newell got hurt, and I was sitting in the press box. And McCauley said, go get your stuff on. And I did. And I was out there. And I was doing great for the first 30 seconds until I disallowed what turned out to be the winning Bruins goal. It ended up costing them second place. Montreal got second place, home ice in the Adams division. Jean Perron saved his job, and they went on and won the Stanley Cup. And he got a new contract and never sent me a dime. But that was the beginning. And then McCauley and Scotty and the great Rene Frizzell from the IIHF had confidence in me, and they put me in the Canada Cup, representing, each country. You got a chance to have various officials, and I got a chance to work some games, and I worked in Regina, I worked out in Sydney, Nova Scotia, and all of a sudden one night I went to training camp in September, and McCauley said, what are you doing tomorrow night? I said, well, I'm going to watch his first day of training camp, probably, get my physical, get my stuff, go to the keg with the boys, watch the game. He said, you're watching, but you're going to be watching it in Hamilton. You're reffing. So I worked game 2 of the finals of the Canada Cup in '87. Gretzky had 5 assists. Lemieux had 3 goals. I disallowed 2 Russian goals. And Alan Eagleson told me, you got to give us a chance. You got to give us a chance. I said to D'Amico, who's this guy? But looking back on it, I have some great friends, the best of friends. in the officiating ranks, and people along the way that I've met, the trainers, and some players. A lot of the players were good, some not so friendly to me, but that's okay. Well, they forgot that I was from Dorchester.
There we go. Thank you, Paul. Hey, listen, we're going to, you talked about your first game replacing Dave Newell, whose daughter, by the way, is watching us here today, too. So it's wonderful that you mentioned her name. But, Kerry, I want to ask you about your first game, 1980-81 season. Do you have memories of the very, very first time you stepped on the ice as a National Hockey League official?
Absolutely. And I also want to share two Stewie stories for you.
Sure.
If I may. I was in the American Hockey League before I moved up to the National League, and I had a game in Binghamton one night, and a guy was on a breakaway, clear-cut breakaway, nobody between him and the goalkeeper. It was Dave Silk, the 80 Olympic team, right? And all of a sudden, this guy came flying off the Binghamton bench. He had no stick, he had no gloves, and I think he's going to smoke Silky. All of a sudden, he gets close to him and he yells, goes, "Ah!" Well, he tried to scare him off the puck. It didn't work, though, Stu Cat. I got to tell you, this guy, he used to go to training camp. Well, you remember that place in the afternoon sun where we used to sit at the ski hill in Mississauga and Etobicoke? And guys were like tired from the night before anyway, but we had a full morning of skating and such, and then you'd have a long rule session, and we'd have to listen to the commander Ronnie Wicks, God rest his soul too. He went through every rule and debated them, and all of a sudden we're sitting there and we're kind of nodding off, and we hear this crash behind us at the table behind. All of a sudden, Stewie pops his head up like this from the table. And Scotty's looking at him. He said, "Sorry, Scotty, all this talk about fighting got me excited." My first game, I'll tell you, it was Minnesota North Stars playing Colorado Rockies, 1980, and I was with Swede Knox and Jimmy Christensen, and it was the year that they had the new rule where if players dropped their gloves during a fight, which everybody did, it was history, you paired off, you grabbed a dance partner, and you just stood and watched. Anybody that dropped their gloves during a fight was automatically assessed a misconduct penalty. Remember the rule, Hogue? Mm-hmm. So anyway, we had two fights right off the bat. Paul Schmear, captain of the North Stars, he gets in one, another guy, and I got them sitting three deep in the penalty box. Colorado Rocky fans, and Glenn Sonmore from Minnesota coaching. He was like livid. What the heck is going on? This young punk referee, babyface, doesn't know the rules. Well, they hadn't got the directive, I guess. But as we were walking out of the building, and the fans are in that old McNichols Arena, there was a fence up top, and the bus used to pull down underneath. And fans would stand there and they'd taunt the visiting players going out. Well, they weren't taunting the visiting players. They were yelling at me and throwing crap through the fence. So Glenn Sharpley, playing for Minnesota, said to Jim Christensen, he said, "Don't worry, Chris, we got your back if anything happens." Jimmy Christensen looked at him. He said, "Sharp, I've seen you fight. I think we're better off without you." So a few years later, Ronnie Fournier and I are in Hawaii. We're on vacation, summertime. Charlie Simmer's there with his beautiful wife, and Glenn Sonmore and his wife are there, and we're hanging around the Marriott, and we're eating shrimp and having a drink. We decide we're going to have a golf game the next day. Well, I get paired with Sonmore, who couldn't stand me. Fournier set it up. So I didn't know that Glenn only had one eye. He lost his eye playing in the American Hockey League. He was blind in one eye. So every time he hit the ball, he'd say, "Where'd it go? Where'd it go?" Finally, I had enough of him. And in his backswing, I said, "You blind SOB, you're complaining about my eyesight." And I said, "You got one eye." As he's swinging through, he said, "Between the two of us, we've got a pair." Unbelievable. He got me.
Very good. Ron, how about you? Do you remember your very first game stepping on the ice as an NHL official?
You know, that's so long ago, I can't remember what I had for breakfast, so I'm not. No, it was in Kansas City, and it was one of my all-time favorite linesman, Willie Norris. And Willie, what a great guy. But back in those days, sometimes I think it was Colorado or Kansas City. I know we were there. And after the game, what I do remember, Willie had a bottle of rum, duty-free rum, and he says, and Willie had the famous saying, "Hey pal, we're gonna have a rum." So I remember having a nice run with him, and it was just kind of from there. It's, it's so long ago, and I know Kerry and Stewie remember names, back in there, everything kind of blends together for me, unfortunately, a lot of times. But some of the stuff, more so in the first, rather than my first game, it was the first Stanley Cup game I remember. And you're so nervous. I really wasn't nervous my first NHL game, wasn't at all. My first Stanley Cup game was in Long Island, and lost between the Islanders and the LA Kings. One young goaltender, Dougie Keens, was a goaltender for Los Angeles and from Barrie, and I'd known him since a kid growing up. But anyways, I skate out on the ice. I'm skating around. He goes, "Hoagie, how are you?" "Good." I can't feel my feet. I was skating around. I was so nervous. I could not feel my feet on the ice. And I thought that I would be nervous my first game, but it was my first Stanley Cup game. You know what? I stood at center ice. I said, "How am I going to do this?" I dropped the puck, and everything was okay. And that's something that you remember. But your first game, I think, in the NHL, you remember, Kerry and Stewie, that it's different today than it was back then. We had to spend a number of times a number of years rather in the NHL. Kerry, I remember, you and I being down in Norfolk, Virginia, Richmond Robins. The Richmond Robins actually had a tougher team than the Philadelphia Flyers, if you can imagine. And the one night, I think, Kerry, you had the next night, if I remember you coming in. I had 5 bench emptyings the one night. Richmond Robins and the Norfolk is a Detroit team. Next night I went to Philadelphia. Of course, I had a bench emptying. I had it all straightened away in about a minute and a half. And the timekeeper says, "How'd you do that?" I said, "Practice." And, if you can possibly imagine, we had 5 bench emptyings. And so when the accumulation of your first, your first NHL game is a reward, for being what we went through when we come in. And Stewie said, my very first road trip in 1971 was I was 21 days on the road, home for 2, back out for 28 days. And so by the time you got to the NHL in those days, it was a reward, and it was something special, something that you'll never forget.
Oh, that's for sure. Great stories. Paul, something Milestones situation for you, the first U.S.-born citizen to make it to the NHL, both as a player and as a referee. Pretty special. And between the 3 guys we've got here, Ron Hoggarth, Kerry, Fraser, and Paul Stewart, more than 4,000 games officiated in the National Hockey League, 4,104. It's just extraordinary. You've mentioned a couple of different colleagues through the years. I'd love you all to just tell me some of the guys who were your heroes, the mentors who you perhaps idolized or you got tips from to help you in your career as well. Maybe I can start with you, Paul.
Well, I was a sponge for, and Kerry and Hoagie will know this, because I would go to as many games as I could, especially when I was home in Boston. I would go to the Bruins games, and I would sit there, and I would go out with the guys after, and I would ask questions. And usually there was a supervisor there, Frank Advari was mentioned, and he was a tough guy, but a great teacher and a good friend to me. And John Ashley was another. And I just had, from nearly all of the referees, such a feeling of acceptance and such a feeling of camaraderie that it made me feel that, I had finally found my niche. And it was interesting because there's a picture of Pat DiPuzzo and Pierre Shampoo, my friend. And it's interesting because I had fun out there, and I don't think you'll find too many pictures of me when I'm on the ice that I wasn't smiling or deep down inside wasn't happy. And all things considered, this is I'm not sure exactly, Jersey and Pitt. This is my first game back after I had cancer, and I remember that hit along the sideboards, and I was yelling at those guys, "Take it easy on me." I still have stitches in my stomach, but it's the same type of thing as Hoagie and Kerry talk about, that through the travel and the travails and all of the things that we had to encumber over the course of time to get to the NHL. When we got to the NHL, it was a reward. And frankly, working, I mean, I worked my 1,000th game with Jerry Gauthier and Pat DiPuzzo, and I worked my last game with Brian Murphy and Jay Shears, and I can nearly remember everything of every game. And I know Gary Bettman was confused about that, because I signed on to the concussion lawsuit, and he says, "You remember everything." I said, "Absolutely, Frank. It's good talking."
Kerry, how about you? Some mentors, some heroes that you had, some people who helped you in your career as well?
Well, for sure, but Paul just spurred a memory with the 1,000th game that he mentioned, and I did my 1,000, and then I first referee to do 1,500 games, and I chose the venue, as we are able to do. I wanted 2 original 16s. I wanted it in Madison Square Garden with the Rangers, and I wanted the Toronto Maple Leafs as the visitors. Well, Pat Quinn was coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs for my 1,000th game, and he and I had a little bit of history together, if you will. And Ray Campanello was the linesman this particular night for 1,000 games, and they bring us out onto the red carpet and they give us a soapstone carving for 1,000, and Tiffany Crystal for 1,500 now. But everybody was applauding, and Scampy was standing by the Toronto Maple Leaf bench, and he looked over at Quinn, and he was standing there with his arms folded. He said, "Hey, Quinner, come on, you're the only guy in the building that's not applauding Fraser. 1,000 games." I went, "Yeah, 999 too many."
Oh, funny. That's a good one.
From a mentorship, I came to training camp as a 20-year-old. Yeah, I was 20. I was starry-eyed. Having played to a decent level, I knew that I had, 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I sat. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I wanted to absorb everything I could. As Paul said, I would also go to games on the road. My first game was as a linesman. I was assigned right out of training camp that first year. I worked with Neil Armstrong, Detroit Red Wings. I worked the lines. I forget who the referee was at the time. It might have been Greg Medill and Mad Dog Medill. And we, I was put in the American League. I did 50-some games, flew all over the place, got my feet wet, and I got to watch the other referees like Hoagie and Brian Lewis and John McCauley, and we traveled together. And John McCauley was definitely, without a doubt, my biggest mentor. He and Dave Newell. And John was just a pleasure to travel with. He knew where, if we went to a shopping place and I wanted to buy hairspray and that, he'd say, no. He said, "Don't buy it here. We'll get that in Cleveland where it's cheaper." Like, he knew the price of everything. Like, guys are making a lot of money, right? And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, $7.50, and then you're 7,500, and you think you struck oil. But we had to work hard and perhaps do other jobs in the summertime. I always did. I had more than one. But John Cawley, God rest his soul, he was an amazing individual. He knew how to push buttons as a boss. He could, he loved to debate. He'd love to fire you up. I remember Stan Fischler, okay? Fischler, when I'm in the NHL, and Fischler wrote a column that talked about this little referee that looks like little Lord Fauntleroy from the movies, right? And I just feel, when I watch him, I just want to punch him. Well, I read this article. I called McCauley and I said, "Who is the guy?" I said, "I'm so ticked off. I've got a game in a couple of days. I'm going to go look for that guy. I'm going to smack him." He said, "Relax." He said, "But but I think you should go talk to him. So I did. I knocked on Stan Fischler's door. We had that in the island, right? He had that studio door where he would get ready for his show. And I knocked, he opened the door, and there I was standing, and I stuck my hand out. His eyes were like wide as saucers. He took a step back. I said, Miss Fischler, my name's Kerry Fraser. I'd like to meet you. You have an opinion of my personality, and we can have a talk. And he started, blah, 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 blah. He said, I'd like to do another article. I'd like to do it. Stan and I became best friends. We still are to this day. He's a terrific guy. He's a terrific friend. When his boy, and Stewie chipped in here too, his boy had open heart surgery. I had one jersey from the 1990 All-Star game. I signed it to his son and said, you're a true All-Star. You deserve this. He still has it over in Israel. But Dave Newell, another awesome guy, a mentor. Oh, we had so much fun on the road, in the early days, whether we would all meet up at Tulsa or Oklahoma City or various places. Boston was a hotbed with Providence, Springfield, and we'd huddle in Boston. I always wanted to be around the NHL guys because that's where I wanted to get to. And I wanted to get to it in the right way. Opportunity knocks, and you got to be able to seize it. But you can learn so much just by sitting listening. Lunchtime, Wally Harris in Boston. I always go for lunch with Wally when he was an opportunity. Listen to the stories and just be a fly on the wall in the dressing room. You can learn so much that way.
Very good. Just when you mentioned John McCauley, comments on Wes McCauley and the role he's got in the National Hockey League.
Awesome, dude. I'll tell you. We babysat him, Hope. You
Yes,
probably
we did
did
so,
too.
yes.
When John would come to Maple Leaf Gardens and he'd have the two boys, he'd have Wes and Blaine, who also lost his eye playing in the American Hockey League. And so Wes, John would say, hey, listen, I got to go talk to the general manager. Can you look after the boys? So they'd be sitting on our knee and telling stories, and we'd look after them before we laced them up. And then I got the opportunity to work with Wes. He sort of grew up in business with us, and I absolutely loved working with Wes. Funny, Wes now is getting all the he's really good on the mic, right? He announces things so great. But I'll tell you, we had a game in the Air Canada Centre. It was a hockey night in Canada, Saturday night game, coast to coast. Wes, whenever a referee calls a penalty, he should be the guy that goes and announces it. Well, I had 3 penalties in the first period, and I couldn't beat Wes to the referee's crease. He wanted to flip on his mic, and he announced it. Hockey night, Canada, coast to coast. I'm fine with that. I don't care. But the glass broke with a minute left in the first period. So players are standing around. It's taken forever to get the glass fixed. So I said, Wes, you know what? Let's just suspend this remaining time. We'll let them fix the glass. You go tell one coach. I'll go tell the other. I went to Toronto. I went to the visitor. And then the players are still kind of milling around. So I said, listen, Wes, we got to let the TV people know what's happening. We got to let the fans know, and we got to let the players know. Why don't you go make the announcement? Well, he said, yeah, good idea. So he's going on coast to coast, right? And he flips on his mic. But what he didn't know is that if I flipped on my mic at the same time, it cut everything out. So Wes is standing there, flips his mic on, and he's... so I finally said, Wes, come on, go. He said, there's something wrong with the mic. We got in the dressing room, and I said, listen, why are you racing me to the penalty box to make the announcement? He said, well, it's like hockey night. I'm the young guy. I said, no problem. I said, do you know that when I flip my mic on and flip yours on, it cuts out all sound? That's what happened at the end there. He said, oh, you rotten. I got him back.
Very good. Ron, we've talking about mentors and idols and things of that sort. Love to hear your comments too.
You know what, it goes back, and again, I like to talk, tell the people in watching what a big change this has come. We went to training camp, and I remember Art Scove, John Ashley, Bill Friday, and I'm trying to think, it'll be Lloyd Gilmore. So these are old names. They came to camp. We were down in Brantford, as a matter of fact. They came to camp, opened up their give their bags, and that's the first time. Remember Art Scove saying, "Oh my God, it's rust! I have rust on my blades." It's the first time that he has been we went to training camp to get in shape, but those are the mentors. When I tell the story, I think that it's a camaraderie that the officials have, and I wouldn't see Kerry or more so the linesman. I might not see a linesman for a month, and we'd have to fly in the night before, get up in the morning, go down for coffee, and it was like we'd been with each other the night before. It was always that camaraderie. It was always that association we had. But the difference. I remember we'll talk about training camp. These guys were there. I remember so many guys have been watching some of the old games on television now. I say, oh my God, John McCauley, he's gone, and Dave Newell, he's gone. So many of our guys that we worked with are gone, but they were such good mentors. We had a training camp. It was one of the things that I learned to be a mentor. Bob Myers was one of my mentors. We used to go back to the after training camp, and we had some adult beverages, many adult beverages. We used to actually stack the boxes that the adult beverages came in. At the end of the training camp, they'd be stacked up to the wall. That's how things have changed. I ran into a friend of mine that here in Barrie when I was working. He said, I ran into some guys I think they're at the NHL referees training camp. They were in Collingwood. And he was talking to them. I said, so what are you guys doing? He says, we're going to the spa. They're going to the Scandinavian spa. And he says, did you guys used to go to the spa? He says, yeah, we went. The spa was Bob Myers' room. We used to go back and have an adult beverage at the spa. So that's how.
Yeah, but Bob Myers' bathtub. Hey, Hoagie, remember his bathtub?
Yeah.
We used it. It was filled with ice and beer.
Yeah, that's right. You come back after.
Showered at the rink.
So that's those mentors, those guys. But it was so different. But when you talk about the younger guys, and Wally Harris, one of my favorite stories about Wally Harris, and I love Wally. When we would do a playoff series, it would be a younger guy at that time, like myself, with one of the senior guys, and Wally Harris. We're in Los Angeles. New York Rangers are playing the Kings. Wally has the first game. He's got 6 penalties. I have the second game. I have 327 minutes in penalties. So I mean, those are the mentors. But to you'd sit down afterwards and talk with them. And I talked to Wes McCauley, and I think the guys that still have that same camaraderie today. That the older guys, that everybody, and I can actually say in my career in 23 years, there wasn't anybody that I didn't like, and I'm not sure that there was anybody that didn't like me on the officiating staff, and that's how
fair judge.
That's a story we
Very
won't
good.
tell. Yeah,
Excellent.
That's something that with the mentorship, it was passed on from generation to generation, and the guys that came before you were able to sit down and have an adult beverage with them, and I think that's really where we learned our. In management, I've been in business afterwards, and I tell my guys, you treat people the way you want to be treated, and that's on the ice, and that's in the world, and that happens. That's how the successful guys get through.
Very good.
Kevin,
I love to hear about the camaraderie. Sorry, Kerry.
No, just a wee tiny. It's not all that off color, but it's a funny story. My first training camp, and we were like 12 days or something, Hogue there, and the veteran the officials would sort of see what the young guys, the invitees, what they're like before they welcome them in. And Hoagie was part of with Dave Newell and Bob Myers and Lloyd Gilmore and Art Scove that invited me out one night about 5 days into training camp, and we had a few adult beverages. It was the night of the squash thing at down the road at Squash Club, and I was about to leave, and all of a sudden Dave Newell approached me and said, "Hey, listen, where are you going?" I said, "Well, I had a beer and I'm going to go back." And he said, "The boys would like you to come out with them tonight." Well, I'll tell you, we went pretty good. And the next day we were skating, and it was really great being included in that select group. But we were on the ice, and now I'm in the shower, and I get shampoo, and I'm all showered up. And all of a sudden, I feel this warm stream on the back of my leg, And I turn around and it's Art Scove, who called Popsy, and he's initiating me. And he had a funny giggle, right? And it was the first time that I learned. And I said to him, Mr. Scove, I said, it's better to be pissed on than pissed off.
Well, welcome to the club. You got everybody.
I love it.
Exactly.
Kevin, I just wanted to add one thing about Wes. Because of what his father did for me, and I know for Hoagie and for Kerry and for many officials, and John, the saddest day of my life was the day I heard that he had passed away. More so than my parents. My parents were older and my dad had been really ill, but because John had such confidence in me, when I did my 1,000th game and Kerry was there, I insisted that Wes McCauley, who had only done 2 games in the NHL, do that game with me.
Oh, wonderful. Jeez.
And in the third period, which would have been my last face-off, I got to center ice and I called him over and I gave him the puck.
Handing the torch over. Loving
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
And paying back a debt.
Very good. Well, talk about debts. We've talked about the camaraderie and the fun, but let's get into the weeds a little bit too. Vern Buffy had a book called Black and White and Never Right. And I'm certain that I know that you've all been accused of that. I'd love to hear, and let's name some names if it's appropriate, but the coaches, the players who gave you the toughest time yapping at you from the bench or from the ice. Why don't we start with you, Paul, and we'll go around the circuit.
Well, it's interesting. One night I was in Montreal watching Toronto play, and Pat Quinn, you've mentioned, he took a piece of gum out of his mouth and he fired it at the linesman and hit him off the head, and he got fined and he got censured and he got all sorts of recrimination, and turned out that I went from Montreal on Thursday to Toronto and worked Friday night in Buffalo and then went back to Toronto, and I'm staying at downtown the Eaton Center Marriott, and I'm on my way to the Old Gardens, and I stopped at Mac's, and I went to the candy counter and I bought 10 packs of gum, and I skated around the ice for the warm-up, and he never came out. Pat Quinn never came out for the national anthem, and Ricky Lay was the assistant coach, and I skated over. I said, "Where's Pat?" He goes, "Oh, he'll be out after the music." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Here, these are for him," and I put 10 packs of gum. He said, "What's that for?" I said, "Tell Pat that's just a gift from me." So the anthem's over, and Quinn comes out, and Ricky Lee can't wait to tell him, and he's pointing, and Quinn's like, "Oh, what's this? What's this?" And I skated over. I said, "Oh, I saw the game the other night." He goes, "Yeah, and I paid my fine." He said, you shouldn't be pissed at me." I said, "I'm not." I said, "But I don't want you to run out of any ammo." and one night in St. Louis, Mike Keenan, who's I've known him a long time, and he's a good guy, but he was calling me every kind of sucker off the books, everything. And he said to me, "You're no good. You're no good. You're no good. You're a no good sucker." I turned, I said, "I have you know that I am very good at that. Just ask Brett Hull." And the whole bench broke up, and Keenan had to walk up the runway. He was laughing so hard. Chris one night sent the captain out. He said, "Terry told me to tell you." I grabbed the guy by the sweater. I pulled him in. I said, "What did he say?" He said, "If you don't take control of this game, there's going to be a hell of a brawl." I said, "You go back and tell him I haven't seen a good brawl in years."
So, a player who gave you a tough time, Paul?
Well, I got sued by one, which he didn't like what I wrote about him, but I wrote the truth. And there were a couple other players. I didn't have a very good relationship with the captain of Detroit. And it wasn't so much what he thought of me. It was more so the way he treated the linesman. And I was a guy that always stood up for my people, even when I was playing. Hoagie will tell you that. I never backed down from anybody. I never said no. And when a guy who thinks he's the best and should be the best starts getting all over the linesman, who in this particular case, the guy was, holding on to his job and, trying to stay in the game and, not on 100%, solid ice. And when I saw with this guy and I heard what he was saying, I stepped in between. I said, you think Scotty Bowman decides how much you play? I decide how much you play. See you later. You're all done. So,
Paul, while we're talking along this line, having been a pugilist as a player, did you ever feel the need as an official? Did you come close to ever cold cocking a guy and going from there and then realizing, oh my God, I'm in a different place now?
Well, it's kind of funny because a lot of times players would say to me, if you were playing now, I'd kick your ass. And I would say, if I was playing now, you'd get the chance. But I had a guy play for Boston one night, and his name is sort of familiar. It's like a seafood item, clam. And he said something to me, and he said to me, he says, I ought to kick your ass. And I said to him, when this game's over, we'll go over to Charlestown. There's a restaurant over there. They have a fenced-in dumpster area. I said, just you and I will go over. Whoever leaves first wins.
Oh, jeez.
I said, you get all these people thinking that you're a tough guy? I said, who'd you beat? Claude Lemieux? I said, it's a big deal. I said, trust me, Wolf and Montcalm fought once in Quebec. They died. They got a big statue. I fought every night in Quebec, and I got killed every night, and I never got a statue. So,
how about you, Kerry? Were there coaches, were there players who kind of gave you a tough time, game after game?
For sure, but Stewie just hit a nail in Quebec City, and we've all had tough games, and we all have things that we can talk about that fans still talk about, be it Doug Gilmour, Wayne Gretzky 93, or 80, 86, 87 disallowed Alain Côté goal, which was the Battle of Quebec Game 5 in the playoffs. The people in Quebec City still dislike Kerry Fraser. So as we were walking out, and guys, remember the old Coliseum, they allowed the fans to stand inside the building because it was so cold outside that they could wait and get autographs as the players left the building. So Wayne Bonney, the linesman, and I were walking out. We had terrible security at the time. The guy left at the end of the second period. So Buckwheat and I are walking out of the building in February, 25 below, parking lot frozen, and we got bags over our shoulder, and there's 5 guys standing there, and they said, there's Fraser, let's get him. Now, we hustled out the door. They came outside 25 below. We got our suits on, our street shoes on, and they didn't come outside to get an autograph in that kind of temperature. So I knew we had a problem. We couldn't get to the car. So I said to Bonnie, I said, we got to go back here. If we go down, we're done. I said, they want me, so I'm out front. I unzipped my bag, and there was that one guy that's, like the junkyard dog. He's the leader of the pack. I unzipped my bag. I took my skate up. It had no guard on it. And I looked at him with the stone kill, stare, and I said, they might get me, but I'm going to cut your throat. You're going to die and bleed out right here in this park. And he took a step back, so I knew I had him. I said, you make a move, you're dead. And we're getting in the car. So we backed into the car. Boom. I said to Buckwheat, get this thing fired up. Let's get the heck out of here. That's Quebec City. I got to tell you, they love their hockey, and they are rabid fans. As far as coach, Pat and I patched up our relationship towards the end. When he came back as the coach of the Edmonton Oilers, which was in my last season, he was yelling at my young partner. We're now in the 2-referee system, which Paul Stewart and I were the very first 2-man game as a test to at Madison Square Garden to see whether or not this thing was going to work or not. But anyway, so Quinner is yelling at my young partner. So I skated over to the bench and I said, Pat, I am so happy to see that you came back just because you heard it's going to be my final season. Well, he had the laugh started to go, and he had the jowls, and he was laughing. And my final game in Edmonton, I went knocked on the door. Kevin Lowe was a GM. I said, Kev, I just want to say, thank you to you and your coaches, if you don't mind. Came in, sat down here with Pat, and reminisced. And hockey guys, we can have differences, we can have our disputes. But you put hockey guys together, and when they can sit down rationally with no emotion or pressure or situation, there's no better people than hockey people. Glenn Sigler was just an awesome guy for me to deal with because he was so witty. And we used to try and match wits, and I could never outwit Slats. Just some really funny stuff. And if they had mics on us back then, boys, there would be some wonderful stuff captured. My approach was to try and mend fences and create relationships. Even in difficult situations, we were, I wanted to be part of the solution, just like these other two guys, and not part of the problem. We have to take our temperature down, and the internal engine that drives each one of us in hostile environments. And I learned that I had certain deficiencies, little man syndrome, chip on the shoulder, stuff that my dad taught me. It wasn't going to work as an official, and I had to do a gut check. It was actually in a dispute with Wayne Gretzky in my very first game that I had with him in Northlands Coliseum in 1980. It was a great lesson. I won the battle that night, but I would lose the war, and I had to do some real self-analysis. Boys?
Very good. Just before we go to you, Ron, let me just go back to Kerry for a second. You glanced over it a little bit. It's kind of the elephant in the room in a lot of ways, but the Game 6 of the 93 conference finals.
Sure.
And I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up and talk about it. Wayne Gretzky, Doug Gilmour, two of the greats of the game. There's an incident. Maybe you can address it with us and talk about your role in this and give us your side of the story too, if you don't mind, Kerry.
Absolutely. My colleagues will certainly tell you that there isn't a referee in the world that would ever want to negatively affect or impact the outcome of a hockey game. We take such pride in what we do, and we want a game that we love our very best effort every night out. It's a fast game, and it's much faster now than it was when we were on the ice, but we were one referee for most of our careers, and in this case, probably all of it. So when the situation happens, there's going to be times in a game where you have a blink, where you have a certain position, where you just miss it. You're going to miss it. And that was the case. And when Doug Gilmour went down, and the worst thing you can do is make a guess, especially overtime, Game 6, LA on power play. You're just not going to make a guess. So I needed some help. I needed information. If I guessed, I would have thought that Wayne took a shot and his follow-through clipped Doug Gilmour in the chin. I went to Kerry and I said, Doug, tell me what happened. He said exactly what I just told you. Wayne took a shot and his stick follow-through clipped me in the chin. I said, well, if that's the case, that's not a penalty. He said, okay. But something didn't smell right. Wayne typically would be there to dispute and to sell his case. He was off to the side, over the sideboards, kind of slipped away. And I just, now you start to put the puzzle together. And I called the two linesmen over. Kevin Collins had dropped the puck on the face-off. Ron Finn, Huck Finn, boys will tell you, if he saw it, he'd tell you. He had balls the size of an elephant, if I could be so crass. Huck Finn came to me, he said, Kerry, I'm sorry, I can't help you. He said, I was looking for the box, I didn't see it. Kevin said, well, I'm not sure. They were bent over, and I'm not really sure whether he did or he didn't. As soon as that was not in the affirmative, there was no way that I could put together the puzzle that Gretzky should be penalized. I had to eat the play. And both of these guys will tell you, when you're uncertain and you get that dry mouth, that cotton mouth, and you have to make some kind of a ruling, if you guess at it and you penalize somebody, something that sadly happened when the Las Vegas Knights and San Jose Sharks were playing that turned the whole series around in Game 7. There was a guess that was made, and it was the wrong guess. And, that happens. So I had to eat. We still didn't know after the game. Brian Lewis, referee in chief, came in. He said, well, Hockey Night in Canada says they have a replay that shows it, but I don't know. Couldn't tell. And, good game. Now they're going to Game 7. I got home from LA. I called my dad, who was always taped every playoff game I ever did. I got boxes of them once he died. But I said, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" He said, "Well, we had a little excitement here last night." I said, "What? What happened?" He said, "Well, I was sitting in my chair. I fell asleep. I got my tighty whities on and a little bit of a drum in the forearms again, and he said, I heard this crash out in my driveway. He said, my little mini motorhome with the trailer hitch. He said, some car was banging up, bang, driving back, boom, into the trailer hitch. I said, what'd you do? He said, well, I grabbed the axe at the back door and I chased him up the street and I gave him a couple of good licks on the back quarter panel. I said, oh man, Dad, that's not a coincidence. I said, I got to call NHL security. So I phoned Al Wiseman in Toronto, and I told him about it. And he said, well, we'll get back to you. Sure enough, it was a Leafs fan from Kitchener, Ontario that drove from Kitchener to Sarnia looking for Fraser's family home to pay some dirt for the missed call, or what most Leaf fans thought was a cowardly call that I saw it and didn't have the guts to call it. And I think that is flat out not the case. My mother used to get obscene phone calls. So finally, and she'd hang up when the foul language would hit. But I gave her one of my whistles tied to a seat, like the good hockey mom she was. She hung it by the phone, and anytime anybody gave her the dirty foul mouth, she blew the whistle like crazy in her ear. Well, I retired, and I was 2 or 3 years retired, and Mom failing health, we had to move her into a nursing home, clear out the house, Rick and I, and Mom still had the whistle hanging on the hook by the phone.
You're a good man to address it, and I appreciate that very much, Kerry.
I was wrong. I missed it. Hogan and Paul will tell you when you miss something. Like, I made a lot of great calls. I don't remember them, but I'll tell you, I remember the miss, and that was one that I will forever, ever remember and wish that I had seen and been able to call.
One of the thrills for me running the Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer event was to have you and Doug together and friendly, and there we go, friendly and lovely. And you two were wonderful guys, and it was great just to see you. I don't know whether you buried the hatchet, but certainly it was great for us as spectators to watch the two of you together.
I have to tell you guys, Doug Gilmour is a class act. He never threw it in my face afterwards. He went, he was a great player and great leader. And then he went on and played in Montreal after that. He never, ever threw it in my face about that missed call. And I'll tell you, he is one class act. I have nothing but respect for him as a player and as a person.
He's a good man, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Ron, we're going to zip over to you and ask you about the same sort of thing. Were there any guys who got under your skin, coach, player?
Well, first of all, I want to tell these two guys that I was the first guy to start the two-man system, because when we went to the Edmonton Oilers game, I would just go down and stand beside the opposition's net, and the play would go down the other, and I said, I'm going to stay right here because they're going to be right back. And you know what? Edmonton was everybody right back. Anyway, so believe it or not, I got to travel with the legends of hockey after. I did it for 15 years, almost as many games in the NHL as on. It was a great crisscrossing Canada, raising money for charities. We're sitting on the bus one day between Prince Albert and Saskatoon. Guy Lafleur, Marcel Dion, Daryl Sittler, Tiger Williams, Lanny McDonald, and Michael Burgess, a good friend of ours, all was with us. So, you got to see and have fun. But I'm sitting there with Brad Park, and Parky says, I got to tell you a story. One night, he says, we were playing in Boston, and I can't remember the coach's name at the time. He says, I was so pissed off at you, and the coach sent me out. I got about 6 feet away from you, and you had that big shit-eating grin on you like this. He said, I had to keep skating right by. And you know what? That's how I got by, even with the coaches, was that you treat people the way you want to be treated, and a little humor, a little laughter. It got me. Believe it or not, the only family that I couldn't get along with in my entire career was the Broughton family, Aaron and Neil. For some reason, we just couldn't see it. And I gave him a Ron Wicks. I said, I don't want to talk to you on the ice or off the ice for the rest of my life, for both of them. But anyways, I got a game in the early 80s in Toronto. Quebec Nordiques are playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Toronto is awful. They're an awful team. And you know what? Quebec Nordiques are even worse. They're just terrible. So I'm gonna get this game over with. And matter of fact, it was my ex-wife that I took her to the game at the time, and she says, "Let's go out for dinner afterwards. You're on the road a long time." I said, "Fine." I said, "Nordique's to Toronto. We're not going to have any problem. There's nothing, nothing's going to happen out here." You won't believe it. 5 minutes into the game, they started to push and they started to shove, and there's just now it's stupid. And I says, I threw up my arms and said, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to pick the best player out here on the ice, and I'm tossing right out of the game. You guys get the story? I'm settling it right now." And Aaron Broughton, who was playing Quebec at the time, he stands, "Hoagie," he says, "I know I'm not supposed to talk to you, but I have a question." I said, "What do you want?" He says, "Where are you going to find a good player out here tonight?" So, just a little humor. And that seemed to get along with the player. I got along with all the players, and that's why it was great. But Terry Murray, or Brian Murray, rather, for some reason, we just didn't get along. And but that was part of the job. If a coach, if you could talk to him, okay. And it's like being a boss or being an employer. Sometimes you can talk to your people, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's better just to skate away and stay away, and because it's only going to escalate when you get there. So that was kind of my theory with the guys.
Excellent.
So Pierre Kramer's coach in Pittsburgh. Every time I skate by the bench, he's yelling at me in French, calling me "les yeux," "merde," all sorts of stuff. And it was kind of funny because there was a TV timeout, and I leaned over the boards, and I said to Lemieux, "Do you think this guy just didn't know I played in Quebec and I speak French?" He goes, "Why don't you tell him?" So I said to Kramer in perfect French, "I've heard you, and I hope you have the money for this penalty, and see that sign over there, sortez. Vas-y maintenant." You can leave. So you gotta sort of have a sense of humor, because in all my years of reffing, I gave 4 bench minors. 2 teammates of mine. Ron Wilson got 2. Fatorik got 1. I lived in Fatorik's house. We lived together. We were teammates for 3 years. And the other one was Brian Murray, and God rest his soul, he had a lisp. And he kept saying, "Paul, the puck within." And I kept going like this. Oh, Jesus. I said, "Next time you spit on me, I'm banging you." But
Ron, I'm going to
he's right. You got to have a sense of humor, and you can't demand respect from these guys. You got to earn it. And once you get it, you got to work hard to not lose it.
Yeah. Ron, I'm going to go back to you, and I'm going to put you on the hot seat too. Again, sorry for this, but I want to talk about that game, January 26, 92, against the Pittsburgh.
Going to bring it up, yeah.
Yeah, well, there we go. Pittsburgh Penguins, Washington Capitals in Washington, and late in the third period, just under a minute left to go, all of a sudden there's an altercation, and Mario Lemieux, Kevin Stevens, Jaromir Jagr all get game misconducts, and it prompts Lemieux at that point to make a comment or two. Can you discuss that a tiny bit before we move on?
Well, I've done a fair number of speaking for young adults. Some of the kids are in trouble. I would go to high schools, and I said, you know what? If you ever make a mistake in your life, absolutely admit it. And that was a mistake. I can't believe when I've actually seen that now. And you know what? Lemieux got pulled down. I don't think there's any steers in the Calgary Stampede that get roped and hooked down as bad as they did. It was an absolute mistake. And I had to admit it. It's like Kerry. I went about a month afterwards. I went into Pittsburgh. We get into the parking lot, and there's a great big monster of a guy standing there. He says, he's a policeman. He says, "I'm going to help you in." He says, "But I'm going to walk behind you because apparently there's a threat and somebody's going to shoot you. So they shoot you. I'm not in front of you." But you know what? It was a mistake. Lemieux had come to me at the start of the game, and he said, "Hoagie," he says, "put your whistle in the pocket. We've got it was a Super Bowl Sunday, as a matter of fact. We got a party." And you know what? That's the biggest mistake that I made in my life, in my career. I listened to him and I let it go, and it built and built and built. As like Kerry said, you do not want to be the reason that for somebody or it's one team to get the advantage. But I look at it now. That was a mistake, and I'm not too sure that even our officiating in the 70s and 80s, when I look at it today, the cross-checking and the nonsense of fighting, what went on in front of the net? It was brutal. It was vicious. Late in the period, if we've got a 1-1 hockey game, Lemieux goes down the ice like that and gets tackled, and I don't call it. I was wrong. We were wrong. When I see it that, you don't want to be an influence on the game, but when you look at it, we did influence the game. So, I'm glad that the game has changed, but there's no doubt I was wrong on that situation. Cute story. Just after that, we were in Los Angeles, and Wayne Gretzky's right here. Mario Lemieux is standing here, and he called it a garage league. And excuse me, which we meant to say garbage, but he said a garage. And so Wayne, we're taking the face off. Wayne says, "So Hoagie, did you kiss and make up with Mario?" And I says, I made a mistake. It's wrong. I'm sorry. And Mario says to me, he says, "I know, Hoagie, I should not call it the garage league." He says, "But you are fat and you are slow." So okay. Wayne, all of a sudden, Wayne, I'll never forget this. Wayne says, "The good part about it, though, Hoagie, we're here in Los Angeles in Tinseltown, and between the three of us, we're making a little over $12 million. I went, "Yeah." Wayne says, "Yeah, I'm making 4. I'm making 8 rather. Mario's making 4, and you're the little bit over, right, Hoagie?" So, but like Kerry says, you make a mistake, you got to admit it, and that was a drastic mistake. And you know what? I think it cost me a lot of money and a lot of time in the playoffs because of that. I really do.
Thanks for addressing it, Ron. Really appreciate that. So just before we do another round
Kev,
of the...
Hey, Kev, if I may.
Go ahead.
It takes a man like Hogue to admit something like that.
Yeah.
And, that's the character that fans don't recognize when they see these guys that they buy a ticket and they're sitting behind the glass, and the best seat in the house is like right behind the glass, or they're way up high, and they think that they can referee the game from where they sit, but they don't understand the quality of and the character that it takes to make it to this level and to go in and night out. And it's about relationships. And I will tell you that, Hogue talks about being really a light guy, and for sure. And, the speed dial on each of our phones, you would be amazed at the number of former NHL legends and stars that are in our phone directory. We've established friendships. Even the guys that I had real problem with, Chris Knuckles Nyland, hated me. Theo Fleury, same thing. We are besties now, both guys. I established wonderful relationships with each of them. Like Hogue said, Theo and I traveled for charity events. We buried the hatchet. We talked about it. Knuckles and I, through his obvious social problems that he's overcome, he's one of the strongest guys, and I love him dearly. His determination to beat things, the demons, and to be smart of it and help. That's what this life is all about, because we're at the back nine of life, and if we hold on to grudges, and some people do, but I will tell you that it's not in either of the three of us's playbook. You have to move on, and you have to help people when you can.
Kevin, can I ask Hoagie a question? Hoagie.
Yes, sir.
Now that you're admitting mistakes, could you admit about the night that you tossed me in Maine when those 8 guys jumped me and I had like 27 flights?
This is a story that I don't think's ever been told before, Stewie, but we weren't making a whole lot of money in the American Hockey League, and Jack Butterfield was the president. He said that, you know what, I'll take you guys out to dinner if you can get those fines up a little bit. So I was pretty good. I had a really nice dinner that night, Stewie.
I fought Cochran, Cunningham, Linsman, Bosniak. Cochran, Cunningham, Linsman, Bosniak. And people say, you already mentioned them. Oh, no, they got in line. They came around again.
You know what? I think I've never seen a guy lose 8 fights in a row, though.
It was kind of funny because the Red Cross asked me later if I could donate blood, and I said, I don't have any left. But Hoagie said to me, Stu, you got to go. I said, yeah, well, I'm taking a few of them with me. And I was so mad at my team, the Philadelphia Firebirds, the American Hockey League. The guy that owned it owned Mrs. Paul's Fish Sticks. Every time I went in the supermarket for 3 years after, I would take a box of fish sticks and dump them on the floor. I figure I'm about $2,000 ahead on that guy. But Hoagie, all of a sudden, the game's over. He looks in, and I'm showering in his room. He says, well, what are you doing here? I said, I'm not showering with those guys. I knew right then I was going to be a referee.
Well, we've got 3 guys here who so consistent, more than 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. We're starting to wind down a little bit, but I just want to open it up to people, let them know that our good friend Suzanne is manning the chat feature. So operators are standing by. If you've got a question for the guys, please let us know that way and we'll bring it forward. I just want to go around one more time and ask you the highlight of your officiating career. And Paul, maybe I can start with you.
Well, I've had many. First of all, I think the aspect of working in the National League, the Canada Cup in '87. I came back from stage 4 colon and liver cancer in 1998. The reception I got from the players and the fans, and especially my brother officials. I think the last game I ever worked in Boston, my first game in Boston, and my 1,000th game in Boston. So I had a career that, if it wasn't for others, and especially 2 guys that are on the show with us, I might not have had, because a lot of people gave me time and patience and teaching and understanding, because it isn't easy to go from 1,500 minutes in penalties to calling penalties. And plus, I was a minority guy. I was an American. There weren't very many American guys, and I had to go through that. But it's like when I played for Quebec and I went through the line at customs and the fella said, Tardif, Lacroix, Lemieux, Stewart. I thought all the Nordiques were French. I said, not the tough ones. They had to go to Boston for the tough guy.
Very good.
There's my first goal.
You were inducted into the United States Hockey Hall of Fame in 2018. Your grandfather had actually preceded you in 1982, and it really was a touching thing that I remember, is that when you were inducted, you visited the cemetery, had a little talk with Grandpa at that point, and celebrated and conversed with him. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, Paul.
Well, it's interesting because my father's buried just to the left of the center headstone. My grandfather's buried in the middle with his wife from Nova Scotia, and I bought the plot right next to them. I said, well, there are 3 referees in a row. If you don't like referees, you can make one trip and pee on our graves all at once. But I bought that real estate, and then I brought a beer along, and I toasted them, and I said, well, we're going to share another piece of real estate in Eveleth, Minnesota. And it was a great honor that was unexpected, and I'm so grateful for all the people that came and all the people that supported my induction, because it truly was something that perhaps no one would imagine, to go from being the tough guy and the minor league hockey player and eventually get into the National League. I played in the WHA. I played against Gretzky's first game. So I've had so many great friends. Walter Gretzky is a great guy. When I worked for the KHL as the chairman of officiating, I brought the 87 and 72 teams from Canada over for a reunion with the Russians. And I just think that, my love of the game transcends all of the things that I had to undergo to get there. And the fruit is that I had an opportunity to accomplish my dreams. And they say if you love what you do, you never work a day. Well, it was never work for me. I loved being out there. And when I got sick, they told me I had 6 months to live. And I fought back because I wasn't going to give up the life that I had fought hard to get. And, you know, I'm an emotional guy. It's okay because I loved what I did, and I loved the people I worked with. And I always remember how kind Hoagie was to me when I went to Barrie and I played in golf and softball tournaments and all the things that we did up there at his home. And Kerry and I, we traveled together. I remember one trip from Minnesota to New York, and we had a lot of fun. And we had a lot of deep conversations. And as I say, you know, I think of Wally Harris, and he just lost his wife not too long ago. And talking to him, it's like talking to my dad. And as I say, Frank Advari, he came down to me one night toward the end of my career. He was retired. He's a Hockey Hall of Fame guy. He was in Tampa, and he came over. Tampa was playing Miami, and he said, "You made me proud of you. After all these years," he said, "you finally did it, and I have to say I'm proud of you." And that, to me, from a guy like that, means so much. And the fact that I get to be invited on a show like this, you know. As I said to Johnny Cullen and Maurice Richard and I were there at the start of Hockey Fights Cancer. We were all sick at the same time in 1999. And I stood up when they asked me a question in the press conference. I said, well, Rock Richard had 500 goals. Johnny Cullen's got 300 goals. And I played in the NHL. So between us, the three of us, is 802 goals right here. But people say one thing. They say, yeah, but you only played 21 games in the NHL. And I tell them, one would have been enough.
Yeah, lovely. Kerry, you've got an amazing family. You've got great grandchildren as well. You faced a challenge that Paul had talked about a little bit too. Do you mind mentioning to our viewers here about your challenge?
Well, you know, Kev, I was at your cancer charity event for your hospital in the out in the parking lot playing in a hot summer, and I started. You know, it was really a hot day, and when I was drafted by the team that picked me to raise money, they said, "Do you want to coach or do you want to play?" I said, "What do you mean, coach?" I said, "I want to play." So we're playing ball hockey, and I got into a battle, and it just comes back to you, and I didn't want to let up, and I got the puck or the ball, and I wasn't going to give it up. I'm shouldering a guy, and stupid kind of stuff, but I'll tell you, everything started to spin on me. And I literally, I could have had a heart attack or a stroke because I was diagnosed after your event with essential thrombocythemia, which is an incurable rare form of blood cancer, where a mutant gene develops in bone marrow and causes your platelet count to flood. And I had a routine blood test to have a fatty cell taken out of my bicep, and my GP said, "Boy, you gotta get into a hematologist." Long story short, I'm on 9 chemo pills a week. I take other medications. I am on the right side of the ground. I have a much lesser heavy pail to carry than Paul Stewart did and other people. I feel truly blessed. I've been able to, with Paul Henderson, hockey legend, do a public service announcement about creating awareness for people. If you're not feeling good, there's certain things you need to do. Don't be the tough guy or the tough gal. And it happens to people typically over 50 years old. So my plan is to die with this and not because of it. You know, Paul has had a great family career and a legacy that he picked up and carried on with. And just like Frank Advari, I'm proud to call Paul not only my friend, and he truly is. He's got a heart as big as a house, as you can see, because he cries at the drop of a hat. Nobody I know has a bigger heart, and he does so many good things for people. So look at the hair on Ray's Campanella. My goodness. But, in terms of picking a highlight of a career, I mean, each one of us has had so much. I mean, with me, how out of 2,109, 65 games can I pick one? Hoagie talks about it, first playoff game, awesome. First Stanley Cup final, incredible. I got to work with a lot of my Stanley Cup finals. I worked with Ray Scampanello and John D'Amico, two Hall of Fame guys that carried me through that first rough, nervousness and start. 85 was my first one, Flyers, Oilers, and you don't know what to expect, and it takes that group to get you through it. I think the Winter Classic in Fenway Park in 2010 is one of my favorite memories. And you mentioned my family. We have 7 children, Kath and I. We have 12 grandkids, and I think the most wonderful thing about my career, aside from the fact that I love this game to my grave, I love being part of it, and the honor of being part of the National Hockey League at any level. But to be able to share it with my family. My wife has been to Europe. We were talking about it the other day. She went to Naga for the Olympics in '98, World Cup in '96, just on and on. Every one of our kids has been Stanley Cup finals. They've skated on the ice in the pregame, like morning skates. They've gone through dressing rooms. They've got pictures with Gretzky, and each year when one of our kids turned 13, they got to pick a special trip. We went to Disney World on off days. They got to sit with Gretzky in the dressing room, get a picture with him that they have now showing their children. That's, I think, the legacy that each one of us leaves. It's not about the number of games we did or the honors that we received. I got to tell you, my legacy is in my family, my children, and my grandchildren, and the memories that we've created. A lot of it has been done through the National Hockey League. I'm forever grateful.
Wonderful.
Now
Wonderful.
I'm getting sentimental, Cat.
Nothing wrong with that. I've got a chance to meet some of your family, and that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's been a real pleasure that way too. Ron, I'm going to stop as far as the milestones go with you, but the Barrie Sports Hall of Fame, an outstanding career. Like the other guys, I'm going to ask you the same question. Is there a game that we can isolate that was the highlight of your officiating career?
I think the game that I look back at, so many, and this is a game that really didn't. It's not a super game. What it was is when the Russians came over here and played the individual teams, and I'm trying to think back in the early '80s, and they actually played for points. And Peter Stastny was was playing. This was his first year in Quebec, and he came to me and he says, "Hoagie," he says, "I know I shouldn't say this, but he says, I'm going to win this game." And it was all about back in Czechoslovakia, and he came through. He hacked, he whacked, he slashed, and they beat them that night. And I still remember that because that wasn't just a game. That was about a culture. That was about about his background, and that's one of the things that stick in my memory. But the highlight, when I look at not necessarily the game, we've had 2 fellows I want to mention that just come on here. We see that Matty Pavlich is watching tonight. I want to say hello to Matty.
Yep.
What a great career Matt had. Hockey Hall of Famer Matty, and he taught me how to travel. That's another story. That's a whole evening's story on how to travel. But it's the great people that you get to meet. I traveled with the legends of hockey after I retired, and I was able to see just how important that game, the game of hockey, means to people, means to Canada. When we say hockey in Montreal is religion, well, in Canada and now the United States as well, the highlight of my life has been part of being at such a great game and having so many good friends. During this COVID time, I've just reached out to a few guys that I hear and I pick up the phone. Chummel, Mark Perry, for instance, Willie Norris. Some of the guys I haven't seen in a long time, we live a long way away. So that's the highlight of my career, being able to just pick up the phone and say hello. We had a Mark Curtin the little guy with a great amount of talent, just played in Toronto, just said he was watching. Those are the highlights, I think, of anybody's career. If you're able to be part of such a great organization with so many great people, I think that's really been the highlight of my life is being part of it.
Hey, Hoagie, I want to say thank you to Matt Pavlich. When I was making all kinds of mistakes in the eye, he would get in the car and we would listen to great music, Glenn Miller and all those great bands, and he had such patience for me, and I know he did for all of us. And he was a good guy, and he came from a hockey family, and we went out for dinner in New York, and I have a lot of fond memories of Matty Pavlich.
Great name. Great guy.
We've got some lightning round questions. We'll just do them real quick if you don't mind. Oh, I'm sorry, Kerry. Go ahead.
You mentioned Mark Curtin. Mark Curtin is a real hero in my mind. He's dealing with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. We have every second week a group of gentlemen that are spiritual, faithful, and pray together on a Zoom chat. And Martin hasn't lost his sense of humor. He fell down one night and banged his head, and his wife told him he had to wear a hockey helmet around the house from that point on. And the spirit of people are things, and I'm in a whole bunch of Hall of Fames, except one that I hope to get into at some point in time. But one of my proudest moments, I was inducted into a sports faith Hall of Fame in Chicago that was started by the owner of the Chicago Bears, and I was inducted with Vince Lombardi that year. Again, Paul will know that I would go to daily mass whenever I could because I needed it more than anybody else. Let me tell you, but. I went to had a lunch one time. I was invited to the seminary in Boston because they had a lot of hockey fans, and there was this guy from Detroit, seminarian, and he was all goo goo gaga. Oh, this is Kerry Fraser. He's the best referee, and blah 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 blah. Saying my praises. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And this little guy from Idaho, he didn't know a hockey from a potato, is sitting there, and he said, "No disrespect, Mr. Fraser, but there's only one Hall of Fame I want to get into." And he looked at heaven, and I said, "Amen, brother, I'm with you."
Well, you've talked about mentors, and just a quick comment here. Dave Newell's daughter, Jessica, says she wants all the gentlemen to know she's extending congratulations for 3 wonderful careers and that her father spoke extremely highly of all of you and very proud to work with you and call you his friend. So that's great stuff. Thank you, Jessica. A question for you, I guess it's a question for you, Kerry, going back to the Sarnia Bees. Have you ever seen Frank beaten?
Well, Frank and I were line mates, and he was called Frank Never Been Beaten when he was playing in the WHA and with the Rangers, right? Yeah. And then he got beat once, and Frank seldom been beaten. And Frank and I are buddies. We're communicating. He's down in Florida now. And we're going to get together when this COVID opens up. I'm going to take him to Old Memorial. I'm going to play some golf down there in the Tampa area. And that's where the bond never breaks, eh? You could fight with guys, and I'm sure you fought Frankie Beaton, right? And yeah. He was a fundraiser. He and I, in our first training camp, when he came in from Antigonish, Nova Scotia, we had a fight in the first day. And it was over the shoulder pads. I was in Oshawa, and I came back, and I was the captain of the team, and I came in late camp, and he had my shoulder pads. So I told the trainer, I said, "Go get my shoulder pads, wherever they are." So he got the pads. So he said to the guys in the other room, he said, "Hey, the new guy got my shoulder pads." We went out, we had a fight right off the bat over the shoulder pads. We became friends ever since.
I went into Cincinnati. I was playing for Cincinnati in the WHA. My first game against the Birmingham Bulls. They had the Birmingham Bullies, and they were tough guys. They had Beaton, Bilodeau, Baudouin. They had Langway. They had a whole bunch of guys along the way. And I was going in there with Cincinnati, and I said, "Well, I'll take them on alphabetically." So I fought Beaton, and then I fought Baudouin, and I fought Bilodeau. And I hit Frankie, and he caught his leg in a rut, his skate in a rut, and I think he broke his ankle. And Bilodeau skated over the box. He says, "We're going to kill you now." Sonmore was coaching. I said, "Yeah, well, let me put it this way. You're next, and I'm coming out in 3 minutes." And Frank and I, he's a Maritimer. He's a great guy. He was a great friend of John Brophy's, and I always loved John Brophy. I played for him, and I reffed his games, and certainly saw him play. And that's what Hoagie and Kerry are talking about. The camaraderie is the thing that keeps us coming and keeps us going. And even though we're older now, in our hearts and our minds, we're still young. We can still go.
I got to tell you a quick story.
You, Ron.
A quick story, Frank Beaton's
story. Yeah, go ahead.
So my brother-in-law plays in a bagpipe. He's from my sister lives in Port St. Lucie. And my brother-in-law says, we're playing the bagpipes, and this guy's got these great big set of arms on him. He's a Canadian, and he says, what did you do? He says, well, I was a hockey player. And my brother says, do you ever hear of Frank Beaton? I went, you got to be kidding me. So he plays in a bagpipe group in Port St. Lucie now. So small world with my brother-in-law.
Oh, very good. The final question here comes from Dan Barrett. Did any of you ever lose your concentration being in awe of a play in front of you that caused you to miss a call or get distracted? How about I start with you, Ron?
I got a great story. So we actually, it's Kerry, and we started out our career. We were as linesmen. And I remember one of my first games in 1971. I'm a linesman in Boston, and Bobby Orr comes down the ice. You know that famous spin around? I couldn't believe it. He comes up right at absolutely full throttle at the blue line, spun around, and then went back in. Meanwhile, Cashman on the other side's like 6 feet offside. I don't call it. And I remember sitting in the dressing room, and Frank Udbury comes in. He says, young fella, he says, did you see that play? He says, can you believe Bobby Orr, what he did? I can't believe it. He says, I'll tell you, I got to give you some advice. He says, if you want to be an official in hockey, pay attention. If you don't, buy a seat.
Kerry, you had your hand up as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was mesmerized in 93 games. I just was like,
It must have been the hair. There we go. Perfect.
I had a game in Pittsburgh one night. Go ahead, Kerry. Sorry. Go ahead, Kerry.
No, I want to be legit and finish this up. He had the best seat in the house. We're 10 to 15 feet from these great players. We can do two things at once. You know, we can skate, we can watch the play. But I will tell you that certain guys, the things they did, and like with Mario and Wayne and Kent Nielsen and like Timo Solani, your jaw would drop when you and I'd say, I don't believe I just saw the guy do that. Like their skill level was off the charts. Guys with such great hands. Now today, the players today, there's so many of them on a team that have just amazing skill. You know, there's a situation. Every game I did with this guy, he would say to me before Scotty Gomez, before the game, he'd say, hey, listen, I got a photographer all set, and I want you to go over to that spot on the board. First commercial timeout, we're going to get a picture together. And I don't know what the heck he did with them all, and then when we had to wear a helmet in my last, CBA, he'd say, over there, that spot, first commercial, but make sure you take your helmet off. Oh, I know what. His mother was a hairdresser. I met his mother at a church. She was a hairdresser.
Very good.
I have two little stories. Terry O'Reilly said I fought him one night, and he said he didn't understand why I wore a helmet. Why would you put a plastic helmet on a cement head? And there we go. And the second one in awe was I was just standing below the goal line to the right of Hextall in Pittsburgh one night, and Lemieux was on a power play. Larry Murphy had the puck at the far point, and Lemieux flicked his stick up to get his attention. And Murphy skimmed a pass maybe 3 inches off the ice, directly diagonally across the ice, and Lemieux was to the right. He was almost 90 degrees of the net, and he banged it out of the air and caught the far corner. And if he hadn't deflected or shot that puck out of the air and it hit me, it would have got me, tipped it, it would have gone right into my yap. But I can tell you, he scores and he turns, and I'm so close to him that he bangs right into me, and I hug him. And I said, I have to tell you, that was the greatest goal I've ever seen. He said, and now you know why they pay me.
Kerry, you got one more?
Yes, too. Quick. Mario Lemieux, on a face-off at center ice. I dropped the puck, and he saucered his stick and picked the puck out of the air before the ice. So I blew the whistle. It's a false face-off. And rather than throw him out of the face-off, it's at center ice, I said, I bet you can't do that again. And I said to the guy off beside him, do you think he can do that again? Probably. I dropped the puck again, but I did the handshake. It went sideways, and I dropped the puck, and his stick was going like this. Boom. He picked it right in the air, flat on his stick. And I said, play on. Let's go. Wow. Amazing hands. Amazing hands.
Yeah, my favorite face-off story is I'm at center ice, and Gretzky's he's taken the draw, and this rookie, and it's the opening draw in Edmonton, and this rookie, he's jostling and everything. He says, get his stick down. I said, hey, kid, do you honestly think you're going to win this face-off? Really? He says, yeah, I got a chance. I said, not the way I drop it, and I fired it right between Gretzky's legs. Right back to I said, good luck, kid.
Well, this has been absolutely brilliant. I've enjoyed every second, and I know our viewers have as well. It takes a whole team to put it together. So let me throw some accolades out to some of the folks here. Laura Evans, who's done an amazing job with the technical side of things, and it was her dream in the first place in April of this past year. So we thank her so much. Paul Patskow, who supplies the amazing video footage that we have, and is so good to the entire hockey community, and again, one of the forerunners of this whole event. Glenn Dreyfus, who has produced today's show, makes it real easy for all of us. It's been great. And Suzanne Primo and Laura Evans, who've been outstanding on the phones, helping me with getting comments and questions. Now I'm getting emotional, Paul. There we go. So Suzanne and Laura, thank you for that. Wayne Gillespie and Christine, who helped us out. Frequent contributors, Dan Lancioni and Bill Williams, too. We thank all of you for helping us out. Specifically today, Tales of the Men in Stripes, extraordinary. I want to thank Kerry Fraser, Ron Hoggarth, and Paul Stewart for sharing their stories, their life, and giving us a great, great evening today as we get for Hockey Time Machine. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Next week it's Puck Rock. Oh, thank you so much.
See you, brothers.
Thank you. Stay safe.
To you guys as well. Thank you for joining us today. I'm just going to.
If you need a cabana boy, I'm coming. I can come.
You're in. If you wear the banana hat, you're not allowed down here.
I was big around Hoagie's pool. That's the only reason he brought me up there.
Next week, everybody, it's Puck Rock. We're going to have a quality panel of recording artists who will discuss their interest in hockey. Going to be a little different angle, but a really, really interesting one as well. You really don't want to miss that one. So we'll see you all next week, same time, same face-off location for Hockey Time Machine. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Stay safe.
Tune in.
Where's end?
Awesome stuff, guys. Great to y'all.
Paul, are you going to be coming back for the after party? Thank you for everyone for joining us. This was our first StreamYard. We are live on YouTube and on Facebook, and we appreciate you all watching and liking our new pages. So if you want to come on to YouTube next week, Like Kevin said, we will be having some very big names in the music industry. Let's add Glenn and Suzanne. I was just waiting for Paul if he was going to be joining us for the after party.
He's probably trying to get himself on.
Well, while we're waiting, I'll show you a little video I didn't have a chance to roll in. This is Kerry Fraser, a piece that TSN did when he first had to wear a helmet.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't think I've seen such dramatic acting range since De Niro and Raging Bull.
I love it. Did it freeze?
No, well, what I do is at the end of the videos,
Is that
I always tack on a few seconds of a frozen shot at the end, and that makes sure that we don't just have a black screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it freeze?
Well, what I do is at the end of the videos,
What a nice comment here, guys.
I always tack on a few seconds. Oh, do you have two devices going? Make sure that.
Paul, I think you've got the Facebook and then this one going. The feedback. Yeah. Feedback.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Hear you, Paul?
Can we? How do we get the other people on the after party?
I know Steve Paikin said he was interested. Remember, Paul? But I don't know how he would get on.
Well, he needs a special link from Laura.
Oh, so Laura, how does she send it to him? To his email? Remember, Paul? But I don't know how he would get on.
I don't know.
Paul is still on. Hold on. So I'll send it to Paul again.
Because I know Steve did say, like, you asked me to ask him, Paul, and he did.
Hunt, they all want to come on.
But I don't know how many are allowed, so I don't want to be.
Steve to send them the link.
It won't let me send anything.
I have it. I can send it to them.
Then yeah, go for it.
To see it. Okay, I'll work on that.
Paul, do you want me to send you Steve's email, Paikin? I think you need it. Yeah, yeah. He's just written me again.
Well, it's great.
Just send it to him. You have the link.
Really? To this?
No,
Suzanne,
to get in here. I don't have the ability to invite. It's Laura who invites me.
No,
I'll send it to you right now, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Because I could just send you. Okay. Come on.
Okay.
Because I know that he'll probably do something, to help promote it. Maybe talk about it a bit. I don't know where is it coming to my email, Laura, or is it coming just into my text?
I have to email it to you.
Okay. So then I have to email. I'm going to forward the email to him. Okay. Yeah, I could have just given it to you, but that's okay.
Oh, there's 2 photos being uploaded to the Facebook.
Laura and Paul, I don't know if you noticed, it's a subtle change, but I didn't want either one of you to be triggered by the blue, blanc, and rouge. So I changed the logo background. It's now the ice skating surface.
Yes.
So now it's still kind of blue, so you'll have to tell me. You see it blends in with the background
Totally
now.
blends in with the background. Yeah.
But you have to tell me if that's still too blue, and if it's still triggering. But at least it's not the CH colors.
Yes.
Okay, so if that works for you, that
It's okay for me. If Paul says it's okay, then we're good.
okay. I did end up having time to alter that.
That's amazing. I didn't even think you were going to have any time to do.
Oh, there's still things I wish I'd had time to do, and I ran out of time. So
You did great. Fabulous. I loved all the pictures and like it makes it with the videos and that. Everyone could kind of really go back to that time going, oh yeah, I remember that clip. Or I remember, you're going to remember them more as referees when, sitting up there and watching in the stands going, yes, of course. Well, Kerry just seems the same. I don't think his hair's the same. I think he just goes to bed. He's woken up 30 years later. It's still the same. It's fantastic. And,
clearly, Kerry went through the hairline twice before I got to go up once.
Oh. There you go. So I just sent. Now I can turn my phone back. I don't want it ringing. I was a mad typist, man. I'm sweating. Because I can't copy and paste from there and have it put on my iPhone, or I could have sent it a lot easier, but I had to take it. And some of the earlier questions that were there, which were great, I'd write them down and keep scrolling of them. And then when it was a lull, I'd type them up and keep them in a chunk and then forward them to
Suzanne, if you want to take a picture of it, it would be easier. Take a picture of the screen and just highlight that comment and then send it to him.
Yeah, I could try that. I could try that.
Right now, okay. Welcome.
Yeah. Is Steve, there he is. Hello, Steve.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Hello. Look at you.
So what did you think, Steve?
Oh, that was tremendous tonight. Just tremendous. They all had such great stories, and they were all so candid, and it was, I really didn't know much about Paul Stewart. I knew that he was a ref. I didn't know that he had this playing career before that, which was quite a revelation, and quite a fighter. I didn't know that either. Yeah. That was great tonight.
Yeah, you liked all the different graphics and the pictures and the videos that came in. It really added a whole new spice to it, didn't it?
It makes it more, yeah. It does give it a more of a professional show kind of feel to it.
Yeah. That was really nice. Glenn, awesome job, Glenn.
Thank you. I think everybody did. I've been through a lot of maiden voyages that didn't go as smoothly as this one.
Yeah. I think it helped that the Zoomcasts have been happening, so there's sort of been an idea of how it all looks, whatever. This is a different platform, and I know people from comments were missing seeing each other. I think they really like that. There's only so much one can do when you're doing a show like this.
It's a different platform.
And at one point, I was doing we're missing seeing each other. I think they really like that. There's only so much one can do when you're doing a show like this. It's a different platform. And at one point, I was doing we're missing seeing each other. I think they really like that. There's only so much one can do when you're doing a show like this. It's a different platform. And at one point, I think they really like that. There's only so much one can do when you're doing a show like this. It's I think they really like that. There's only so much one can do when you're doing a show like this. If it stops.
Okay.
Oh, good.
I just muted myself and it stopped the thing from looping. But I was doing intervals, guys, at times. I started at 7:05 and went through to 8:43 and just watched sporadically the ebb and tide of the viewers, and up at 1:30, up at 1:35 at one point. So that just shows how it was. It's a good decision because there's 35 more people that would normally not have been on this, right?
Actually, more than that, because you have to count us.
Yes, true.
Before it was 100, including all of us. So now it was 135 plus the 3 guests plus 4 of us.
Yeah.
5 of us.
But generally speaking, I mean, it's just the idea that it's, you're up, 33%. I mean, that's a great stat, when you're looking at it that way.
Well, more because some are coming on and going off. I just sent a bunch of bites for the after party now. Hey, Tracy, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thanks for the gift and a nice card. I really appreciate it.
Fast. That's really fast.
Same today.
Mail's been so slow. This is something I appreciate what you're doing. I know you all work really hard, and you've just been great with doing all of this. And I love the little clips that you've sent of my dad. And so just a small way to say thank you.
Oh,
well, there's more if I ever get time to send them.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good time.
What's that?
Did you say it wasn't a very good time to send it?
No, there's more clips I can send you. I just don't have the time to edit them and send them.
No, don't worry. You've done so much, honestly. But I wanted to let you know, I just was, especially for a first run through tonight with the new technology, you guys really pulled it off well. It seemed flawless on this end.
Yeah, it was very good.
Well, some feedback. We need the feedback, obviously. But Glenn ceases to amaze me. The way he put in the photos and video, we don't have a problem with that anymore. It's pretty good.
That was great, and having the sort of the old Chiron come up with little informational tidbits. It was great, like reading about the rink in the backyard that the kids can skate on every winter, and just those little tidbits just gave it a bit more life as well.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, well, Glenn's used to using Chiron and all his other high-tech producing stuff, so we're lucky to have
Tracy knows. Steve also knows the motivation. The thing that makes it good is fear. When it's a live program, I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you can't see me below the waist because it's not pretty. But now it's over and I can exhale.
I should ask you guys a question while you're all here, and that is, I'm in the process of writing a book right now, and I had to talk to somebody who knew the subject of my book rather well. So I spent an hour on the phone this past week with a guy named Alan Eagleson.
Oh, wow.
And I mentioned that we do this. And but I don't know what Alan's relationship with you folks or the game is anymore, given his issues.
You won't get players on if he's on, and unless it's someone who's still friends with them. So I'm not sure we want to go there.
That's why I brought this up. I didn't obviously didn't extend any invitations. I just mentioned that this was happening, and
hey, it's a though. We'll think about it. We have to be careful.
When I wrote Ron Ellis's book, Alan was so gracious and so generous with his time, and I had a whole different opinion of him after that. But you're right, there's some residue that remains with a number of players. It would be tricky, maybe to do a show just with him would be pretty amazing too. But things to discuss behind the scenes here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd be really working those blocking buttons. What's going on? There may be people that will never come back.
Everybody's in a timeout for 5 minutes.
Timeout 5 minutes. Go sit in the corner. Come on, you got a 5-minute penalty.
Kevin, it's interesting, Kevin. I talked to Ron once about Alan Eagleson, and Ron Ellis, as you know, is one of the finest men you and I both know.
Yeah.
And he hasn't got a bad word to say about the Eagle. He says the Eagle's always been good to him, and he has nothing bad to say about him. And
no, you're right, Alan. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. Obviously, you can talk to thousands of other players who have something very different to say, but I was surprised that Ronnie still speaks so highly of him.
Al did a number of things. He really helped Ron through his illness. people wouldn't necessarily know that. He was very good to Ron's family as well. He was Ron's agent earlier than that too. So he gave Ron another shot when Ron wanted to be involved with Team Canada. So he's got some good feelings towards Alan for those reasons, for sure. And he didn't necessarily feel cheated personally by Alan through the whole scandal.
Gotcha.
Always about one's individual perspective, isn't it? So
yeah,
and that's why it's important, Steve. You're writing about it. That's what you do. You know, you have to write about those things. It's not all.
Yeah, the people he helped like him, maybe 5%. The 95% hate him because he stole and he did a lot of horrible things. Jim Harrison and all these other people. So let's not try to say how good a guy he is, because he's not. Okay. I'm sorry, but he's not. Okay. If you talk to some of the players and the things that you know, yeah, okay, he did a few good things, but probably good things keep those guys in his own little group. So don't tell me about how good he was. He's not. Okay.
I
He
think
didn't go to jail for nothing. Okay.
Yeah, that Steve's writing a book is important because it's not like he's, you know, you've got to play Switzerland, right? You've got to write the book. And it's
Well, but I'm giving my opinion based on what players have told me.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so I didn't go to jail for nothing, okay? And we would have gone a lot longer if you have all these political friends. So let's get off this, how good a guy he is. He may have been to a couple people, but overall, no. Come on now, jeez.
No, I hear you, Paul, and I talked to him because you know, he had a significant role in politics, and I'm writing a book about a politician, so I need to get a you know, I needed to get a story out of him about his relationship with this politician. But I'm not here to tell you that I think he's a super guy.
He can turn a person to like him, like he did with Bob McCowan and people like that. But I thought Stephen Brundle did. How can Bob McCowan say those good things about Al Eagleson after all he's done? Oh, he's a pretty convincing guy when you meet him. Okay? We don't know if we're going to interview him for the documentary in the 72 Canada Righteous series, the 50th anniversary. We're debating that. You see, he was there. He can give a lot of insight, but we have to.
No, I know he's a problematic figure, no doubt.
Yeah, so
polarizing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is Fred there? Where's Fred? We can squeeze one more in, right?
Yep. Hi, Billy. Hi, Wayne.
How are you all tonight?
Good.
It's a wonderful show.
Yeah.
Very nice show.
I sent you guys a note. I was so pleased with just the way it went. The production was extraordinary. Suzanne, you really, really, really helped me with getting those questions and comments, because I can't see the comments on my computer. I can on my iPhone, but I wasn't using my iPhone.
No.
So it really helped. And just the whole concept, I thought it was nice to transfer over to the new format. The emails that I got from people who I invited who watched the show were amazing. They can't believe that they didn't have to pay for such a quality broadcast. So it was very pleased to be part of it. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, the former players have been sending really nice notes. Steve Abbey, Mark Curtin, all these. Nice to see that they were. And Matt Talbot's joined us too, which was we could have got him. Yeah, now Scotty Bowman had just come home, so it was too late for him to come on. He apologized, but he hadn't just got back. So maybe another time we'll get Scotty on.
Is this going out live over YouTube, or is it only us group here that can hear this?
It's live over YouTube, but when we edit it, this will be not here.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Laura, I couldn't find it on YouTube at all. I had to get on StreamYard. I thought that I clicked the right thing, but was never able to get to this part on YouTube.
I was the same, Scott. Same here.
You couldn't go to YouTube to see our comments or anything?
So during the main part of it, it was on YouTube, but then the link brought me here to StreamYard.
Right.
This is a separate link. This is something only for the. So this is your after party, so that's why it's different. Yeah.
Is it possible?
Right, yeah.
I noticed all the comments on YouTube when the show was going on. is it possible to send messages to other individual people who are on without everybody seeing the messages?
No,
Okay.
not that I can see. Doesn't look like it.
Yes, I tried to go through where it said participants. It gave me the list, but I could not send an individual message. And anyone, my grandson is big on YouTube, has a little cast, YouTube cast every day pretty much, but about video games. But he could not even tell me if there was a method of doing it, and he doesn't think there is.
I don't think there is either, Wayne. I have to say, every time I've looked at it, trying to find it, and I'm thinking, no, it's not like you can just say something to one person. It goes to the whole group.
Yeah,
That's different from the Zoom. That's something would be nice for the people to have that option.
Although Suzanne, it was nice, if nothing else, if somebody had a question to Ron, I'd like to ask him about to Kerry. So, I mean, it's not directly to them, but it gave us the opportunity then to isolate the question and move it forward if we had the time.
Yeah. And when questions did come through at the beginning, I was making sure I recorded them because I knew that it was going to be later, but it's too hard to be thinking that at 8:15 everyone's just putting all their questions in, because there's no way I'm going to get that and get it to Kevin, because Kevin can, on a break, look down at his phone, right? And you see about maybe a chunk of them, right, Kevin, and go, okay, that can be later. I can keep that in mind maybe as I'm asking them questions that I'm already going to ask them during the course of the show, right? So that actually is okay, because I just make it my job to try to be on top of looking if a question came on at 7:15. I just note it.
No, and that was great. And there were a couple of questions early on from a guy named Bob Murray, I think it was, that I was able to weave into the show at that point, because we were talking about it. But then his question about Frank Beaton came afterwards, which was great.
But the thing is too is to, like Laura was saying, that questions won't be addressed until the Q&A. But they can send them before. But if it's 8:15 and I get them all, then it's going to be an onslaught. But the fact is, they have to know they're not going to be answered really from the participants necessarily until that 8:15 starts, right?
Yeah.
So you want to keep it, sort of a Q&A period.
So do you want them, Kevin, ahead of time?
Anytime.
Like this time? Or do you want them to, you can either have them on the screen. So if Suzanne writes them down and then you say, okay, if Fred Barrett has a question, and then we can go into the side and actually put the question up.
I don't want the questions posted
Perfect.
Until later on. I want them to come up later on, and if they're in the crawl, fabulous. If not, I'll just do
No,
it.
that's what I didn't explain myself well. So at 8:15, if you say, I have a question from, because Suzanne's already sent them to you.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's
and
fine.
then we can scroll it at the bottom.
Yeah, that would be fine for sure. Yeah.
But they can start sending their questions, Laura, at any time early in the show, because it gives me a chance to not be trying to do all the work in a 15-minute period where I'm not going to get all that in. If I can at least record them and then have another way to script them, whether I write them or do a picture, I can send them to Kevin, because he doesn't see the questions on the side. He sees nothing that we see. Right?
Yeah, but I was just worried that I couldn't bring them up on the screen if I lost them in the feed.
That's why I'm watching right from the beginning, and I am actually I'm making notes. There's a question, and then somebody might be saying, "Hey, this is great, everyone," and they're doing all general comments. That's fine. I'm looking for the other things that we talked about. But when I can see there's a question and it's back at 7:15, I know I've got it here, and I'll make sure that Kevin will have it in his text messages, and they'll just scroll down and they'll just write, okay, got it. He just writes okay to me, and then I know he can, as Kevin, you were saying, feed it in, or you bring it to at the end at 8:15 and you've got like enough there to keep you going.
I know, Suzanne, but I can't find it in, like, if you write them down, I can't bring them up if they were an hour ago. That's the only reason why. Because you're writing them down. Yeah. So if I have to go back into an hour and a half and find them, that was the only reason why. I was just
but I don't know that other people need to see the questions. If Kevin has them he asks them and they answer it. It's not like the participants have to look up and go, I need to read that question was there. It just can come out naturally from Kevin to the guests, right? You know what I mean,
Okay,
right?
so Bob Murray is asking a question. Hold on.
This is a good question. Great way to get people excited on
The
board.
ability to post a photo on Facebook page and/or the ability to let watchers share with their friends in the watch party format.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Share with their friends. Yeah, you can share with anyone. We are only permitted to have 10 in this after party that you can see.
Yeah.
You can have as many people watching and commenting is fine. The ability to post a picture on the Facebook page. I believe we can, Paul. Paul?
What's that?
I said people are able to post
Back when it was
page.
renewal.
Sorry.
You ask me a question?
Bob Murray is asking the ability to post a picture on the Facebook page. They have that ability, correct?
Well, we're going to figure it out. We're going to have our meeting tomorrow, and there's a lot of things we need to talk about. The questions, when they're going to be done, how we can communicate with each other. We're going to bring it all up tomorrow. It's good that we got all the feedback from everybody. Love it. Yeah. Now, apparently everybody can listen. They're still hearing us. We have a lot of people still listening to us.
Yeah. Yeah, there's 29 still on. So,
Steve, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I have another little bit of feedback here.
Yeah,
Number
good.
one, I have a question from Fred Barrett. It says, Steve P., how is your hairdresser? Obviously, my barber died, so I just thought I'd let Fred know that. And the second thing is, I don't know if anything can be done about this, but certainly on my end, there was a vast disparity in audio levels. Ron was a little hard to hear. Kevin and Kerry were at the same sort of normal good level. Stewie was coming in major hot. And every time he spoke, I had to, quickly turn the thing down because otherwise my eardrums were going to blow.
Yeah.
I don't guess you have independent levels that you can ride on this thing, right? You basically take what you get.
No, this is they're on phones, they're on computers, they're on whatever. Kerry was in the islands?
Yeah, he was in
he was
down south.
So, I mean, it is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I took a look at Hoagie, and when he leaned back, his voice grew weaker.
Yeah.
When he leaned forward to the screen, his voice got stronger. So I just figured it was his mic.
I think it was. I think it's your own technical situation.
Some of it may also be due to you can adjust if you're on a computer, the computer can adjust for the output sound, and it can either be jacked up or it can be low. Not sure if people will know how to get in there and change it though, but that is one possibility.
There should be a key on the top row with a little speaker and then a plus and minus beside it. Yeah. And I think it's on the left side as you look at it, depending on whose make it is.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at a Lenovo right now, and yes, it's on the top left corner.
Yeah, mine's bottom right, so it changes by computer for sure.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if this is doable, but I know one of the things the technical people tell me on the program that I do is that they try as often as possible to get people not to use their worse computer microphones and rather use, the microphone that comes in a pair of earbuds, or even if you can, something even external that's better. I appreciate that this is not a professional operation. You guys are all doing this in your spare time, but it does make a heck of a difference if you have an external microphone or you don't use your computer microphones or you do use earbuds. It just gives you much better quality.
Yeah, and Steve, as Paul Morris used to say, crappy sound goes in, crappy sound comes out.
Yep.
Toronto goal scored by number 14, Dave Keon.
Yes, except Paul used a word that started with S.
I get you.
I don't know who's listening or watching. I just can't say it on the air.
No, that's good, Wayne. We got to keep it Disney here. You never know who's watching.
Exactly right.
Yep.
I'm not even wearing trousers right now, so I can't stand up.
Wayne, did we really need to know that? Did
Sorry,
we
I'm
need
in
to
one
know
of my
that, Wayne?
moods. I'm almost cured.
The stuff you only get at the after party. I do.
And I'm coming out of my shell nicely.
I do want to go back to Bob Murray's comment about the inviting friends on Facebook in the watch party format, which is different, which could be really fun. So that let's say the family member of one of the guests wants to have other relatives watching together. You can do kind of this watch party format. It's a bit different, and I think that's a really neat idea.
Paul, you're the Facebook person.
Not really, but I think the watch party is a good idea to look into. Now, Neil Sasakamoose shared this to all his indigenous, I said it right? Indigenous groups. So I don't know if those are in the count, okay, of people. So we have to figure that out. That's it's good though that they're sharing this to all these different groups. So we'll figure it out.
Paul, the first thing you need is some lighting.
For me?
Yeah, you. We can barely see you.
It's dark for a reason. And talk about wearing a hat. That's because I can't go to the barber shop either. So.
Well,
you're lucky you can go to the barber shop.
Yeah, I suppose. Billy Hunt, you got lost for a few minutes, right?
Is my microphone working? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Billy.
That's a miracle. My internet is pitiful.
Where are you, Billy?
So say again. Did you have a question?
Where are you?
I'm in New Mexico in the middle of no freaking where.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yet your audio is as good as any that I've heard tonight.
Yeah, it is good.
I couldn't even hear that. And to tell you the truth, I mean, every show has been fabulous. This is one that had great personal interest to me, and it's the one that came through the worst. So no. I don't think it's the format, and I know it's not the people.
I think it's the internet. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
Billy? Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Well, you can watch it, Billy, on YouTube maybe once it's been edited and put on. It's going to be without this after party on it if you wanted to revisit it. Although being live is the way to go, right?
Yeah, being live's better.
I will definitely look for it.
Yeah.
We'll post it. Yeah.
Paul's got that backlighting happening with the Lucille Ball lens in the front so that we can't really tell how old he is or what he looks like.
You're a TV guy. I could turn the computer around, you'd be able to see me better, but why would you want to see me?
We want to see that cute little face of yours, Paul. Come on. There we go. That's better. Hey, now that's that's a better background, but your face is still in shadows.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not taking my hat off.
It's not the hat.
It's not the hat. You just need a little lighting.
Somebody said he had a face made for radio.
Light underneath.
Well, that's not going to work. That's better, isn't it?
You need a lamp or something, Paul.
Yeah, you need.
The room. Yeah.
Look at Billy Hunt's shot. Billy's got a nice light coming on him so we can see him.
It's great.
It's lit in the foreground and the background is in shade. That's the way it's supposed to be.
I will light it up next time.
If you want, I could send some professional lighting people over your place and fix you up.
There you go.
I would offer to go, but we can't even get across the border.
Oh, yeah. Laura, where are you?
Toronto.
Oh, okay.
I'm 10 minutes from Paul.
Okay.
Steve, you're downtown or?
I'm Midtown. Young and Eglinton.
Okay.
Yeah, Young and Egg.
Yeah, that was a great article you wrote. Very nice.
Yeah, it was great.
We're getting another report. We'll tell people read it, so that's going to be coming up soon, hopefully. Yeah.
That was a wonderful session.
Week as well. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's fabulous. I thought it went fairly well. So.
Yep, it was
Len,
great.
Before or at some point, can you give me a call? I've got a question about tomorrow that I need to address with you sooner than later.
Who's that?
That was for
That's
Glenn.
for
I need
Glenn.
to talk to Glenn.
For Glenn,
sooner than
sorry.
later.
Okay, I was sorry. I pulled a Paul.
No, Glenn's so far away in Seattle, it takes a while for the question to get to him. So, yeah.
If you want me to call you,
Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be great.
okay. Well, when you were giving out your number earlier, I didn't write it down. So, but I can get it from Laura or Paul, I guess.
I'll share it with you.
I can give it to you right now, Glenn. It doesn't matter
Well,
to me.
don't do it over the air.
You may not
Oh,
want
I
to do
Yeah,
that.
do it over the air. Then everybody's going to call him.
Yeah.
Give him a PM.
I should be so lucky.
Oh, Laura is going to email me, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. No way.
When do you want me to call you tonight?
If you can, earliest convenience, okay?
No, I'll do it. I'll call you tonight when we get kicked out of here.
Okay, good.
And I was actually saying to Paul, it'd be good to get your cell. So if you give it to Kevin, you can send it to me on the text that we are sharing.
There we go.
Because it's always good to have a little bit of connection if there should be an issue.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I got dropped at the very beginning. I don't know what happened there. So.
Yeah, you did. That's right. I remember.
I was like, where'd he go? I was freaking out.
Well, you
And all of a
came
sudden
in
he
and
showed up again, and I was like, okay.
no, you came in at the right time and moved it along. You did a good job, Laura. Kevin, you're moderating. You do your homework, which is a good thing, and the videos came in really
Paul,
good.
Paul, I barely heard a word you said. Sorry.
Yeah, Paul, your audio is pretty shaky, Paul.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see here.
Better now.
That's better.
And
I didn't do anything.
No, I have to look at Glenn and I need to look into, because I was watching when all of us were on. It was kind of glitchy, and then I took everybody out when there was the four of you, and then it became clearer.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we're going to have a problem with a bunch of people on. So I'm going to have to really watch that.
Yeah.
And
I
just
think there's that
kinda-
ambient noise that comes when they're not speaking, but it's there and it just kind of amplifies.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, were you moving papers around, shuffling papers around?
Occasionally, yes.
Because one person said that maybe that could be if they were hearing that. I don't think so, because that could have been that loud, right?
Well, I mean, I've got my notes and there's a lot of them and they're not that far from the microphone, but I thought I was being careful. Clearly I wasn't. But anyway, we'll be more
I don't
careful
know. What about teleprompter? Will I have you?
It surely will.
Okay, Paul, you go to his house and do the teleprompter for him.
Yeah, I
Actually,
can do that.
have Andy do that. Andy doesn't live far from you. We'll have
Actually,
Andy
Laura,
do
you want to know something?
Yeah.
You don't need anybody at his house. The person who does teleprompter for me on the agenda does it from her home.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know how they figured that out, but somehow they figured out a way to hook up the teleprompter to connect it with some kind of radio frequency to our control room at the station. So she does prompter at home and she can obey the protocols and not come into the office.
That's amazing.
I don't get it, but it's
When
it's
you're
happening.
watching on YouTube, you can get closed caption.
Yes.
One on the Facebook. So that
Yep.
really helps me, because if I can't hear someone, I can just read it on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very cool.
if people use YouTube, I think they'll have a better experience with it.
It's static right now.
Tracy, whose stick is that in the background there?
That's been a hot topic before. That's my dad's old stick.
No kidding.
It's got a whole bunch of signatures on it, and yeah, it's so old that it's straight.
What make is it? Victoriaville or something?
It's a Northland. Let's put it this way. Northland.
Northland. Hey, there we go.
See if we can somehow. Oh, not me. Let me remove my.
Oh, you can.
There you go.
Everybody's getting a close up.
Yeah. Oh Lord, I'm we're not prepared for that. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can. It's just it has a bunch of old names, players. What's it going the wrong way? Yeah, Glenn Scove.
Al Rollins. Wow.
Yeah.
Harry Watson. These are all the guys from the 50s.
There's some guy named Johnny Wilson.
Yeah. I hear he's trouble. He was trouble, that guy.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm trying to get creative and think if there is a way to be able to continue the kinds of offline conversations that Steve brought up earlier, because so many people are seeing one another who have not seen one another in a long time, or who, a great example of this is Steve asked me a question on the private chat from the Zoom call about my dad, which opened the conversation, which led to him telling me about his brother coming down here for some stuff for a family.
Have you all lost Tracy? I have.
Yeah, I lost Tracy.
Yeah.
I'm not a technical person, but just to see if there's any way to continue the ability to do those kinds of
private chat. Yeah.
That maybe you don't want to bring up to the whole group.
Yep. No, I hear you. Yep.
I'm just not sure how
Something
to do
to
it.
investigate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's only 8. Sorry, I'm just testing since we have so many people on. I want to see how many people we can put. Oh, we don't have Kevin on. Sorry, Kevin. Hold on.
Bill Williams is trying to get on as well.
Yeah, but we don't have any room.
I know that.
If you want to dump me into that, we're just trying to get some other people in. I'm totally okay with that.
I was going to go on the phone.
There should be room for 2 more.
Yeah, okay.
No, where did Kevin just go?
Where did we go? 3, 6. We have room for 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can.
I can jump up and make room for someone else.
There's Wayne. There's Wayne.
Okay, so that only gives.
No Kevin though.
No Kevin. No, he's not even on my bottom part. I'm just playing with.
Maybe he signed off.
How to organize. See, I don't know how to pick the person who is
speaking.
Yeah, like just if I want to do just one person, it just happens to pick the first person, and I'm like, well, how do I get to pick that? I have to learn how to. Oh, that's what I want to do.
No,
nope. That's not what I wanted.
No, I agree with you.
You're trying to pin.
Because just do single, and because I'm in the top left, it's going to me. But if it's
this won't answer all of your questions, but in the small boxes below, on the left, you can click somebody and then they go full screen.
Yay!
And then if you click it, yeah.
Oh. Hey, I like that smile.
All right.
So I hope that helps.
So I'm gonna. Yeah, you know what? I probably learned that and totally forgot about it. Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah. Hey, there was one time when Kevin dropped out, and I saw he reappeared down below, and so I usurped your position, and I clicked him back in.
See, that's teamwork. I was like, where'd he go? And then I'm like, oh, please come back because I can't do this. And then I disappeared. I was like, well, it's going to be a really bad show if it's me.
Well, you were ready to take over, and which was terrific. That Laura, you jumped into the breach, and we're ready to start the conversation with the referees.
I was going to fake it until he came back on.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell a quick teleprompter story. which has the added bonus benefit of that I look foolish. The first time I ever did a sportscast from a desk, our scripts were written out on paper, and they scrolled along a little machine that I operated with a foot pedal. But what I was supposed to do was take my foot off the pedal when I was narrating the highlights that I was looking into a monitor. But because I hadn't practiced enough, when I was reading the highlights, I kept my foot on the foot pedal, and all the pages rolled off the scrolling place into the trash can. And so everyone on set, I was told later, was frantically trying to get my attention to tell me to take my stupid foot off the gas, and I didn't. So when I looked up from going, and then so-and-so rounded the bases and they won the game, and I look up, instead of words on the teleprompter, there's nothing, because all of them had fallen in the trash can because I hadn't taken my foot off the pedal. Fortunately, I kept a copy of the script at the desk, and nobody was paying that close attention, but it was a momentary, this is the first day of my career and also the last.
What station was that for, Glenn?
It was a TV station, the NBC affiliate in Bristol, Virginia, WCYB, which they told me means "We Can Your Beans."
Glenn, can I ask you a hockey question? Can you hear me, Glenn? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Washington Capitals, 76 Super Series. After it was over at the Washington rink, did the Soviet two teams play against each other?
Yes. What happened is the league decided that the Capitals were such a poor team that actually Tommy Williams said if the Capitals had to play the Russians, they would score 20 or 30 goals, and Williams added, and I'm not kidding. So they decided that rather than play the Caps, the two touring Russian squad would play each other, and the Capitals and their coach were in the stands. Tommy McPhee was the coach, and he wanted them to take a look at what good hockey looked like. Oh. And the rumor was that the fix was in because the two squads tied 7-7, and there was a great whisper belief that neither team wanted to beat the other, so they ended up tied.
Oh, so this is all true. It's been a rumor, and someone asked me that, and I didn't know. Now, Tommy Williams would have known because he played the Russians in 1960 with the U.S. Olympic team.
Right.
Oh, that's a nice story.
Bomber. You know why he was nicknamed Bomber, Tommy Williams?
No, tell me.
Well, because he was a great jokester, and he told somebody as he was boarding a flight that he was carrying a bomb.
Oh.
Always a good thing to do.
Now, his son has been on our Zooms watching. I don't know if he's on today, but I should tell him that. He's a good player, too. Only American in the league for a number of years. 206.
Yeah, unfortunately, he had a sad ending to his life, but he had a very...
Suicide?
Yes. I think his wife died, and he had 5 kids, and it was very sad. When he was playing, though, his Capitals teammates, and I don't know if this was true for his other teams, but they said he just had his own flight pattern. He didn't... They would just hope that the puck and he ended up at the same place.
Good years with the Bruins. He played a long time, too.
and in the WHA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have his hockey cards.
Tracy, you American or Canadian?
I'm both, actually. I became an American. I was born a Canadian and became an American about 10 years ago.
Did you vote?
I did.
You watched the inauguration the other day?
I did.
And what'd you think?
You know, I for all the challenges they were up against, both security and COVID, I think they did a really good job with it. I mean, it was a little overkill, 25,000 National Guardsmen. I think it was more of a statement than a necessity, just to say we're not taking this crap. So I thought the evening ceremony was really good too. I think Joe Biden's a dignified man, and I think his he wants to do well, and so America needs to give him a chance. Whether I don't know. I honestly think the crazies in every fringe area just need to go home and behave and just stop acting up and stop, the violent scenes that are happening. I mean, what's happening out west here in Portland and Seattle and Denver is just ridiculous. All of it. Any violent behavior is ridiculous. So hopefully, hopefully it's onward and upward from here.
I can't remember. Did North Carolina go for Trump or Biden?
North Carolina went for, oh gosh, it was so close, and I went to bed and then woke up the next morning to.
They went for the racist Cheeto.
Oh, did they go for it? God, I should know that. Hang on, I'm gonna.
I have a red Washington Capitals ball cap that my wife didn't let me wear for 4 years because she thought people would mistake it
for a MAGA hat.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, Billy, who did New Mexico go for? I forget.
New Mexico will always go for people they think will bring them, easy money. So they did not go for Trump.
Went blue.
And they never would.
Did you watch the inaugural?
I'm sorry, say again?
Did you watch the inauguration the other day?
No, I did not. I don't want to get involved with politics at all. That's part of the reason I'm here.
Gotcha.
North Carolina did go Trump.
It did, eh? Okay.
It did, but barely. It was 49.9 to 48.6.
Huh.
You have a lot of people in the South who want to, I just loathe stereotypes, and we've had a lot of stereotyping of all kinds of people that have gone on in the last while. But there is sort of there's a traditionalist, sort of a conservative bent here, and there's also a commitment to the amendments, including bearing arms. And so,
well, we'll see for how long, Tracy. Look what happened in Georgia.
Well, it's true, right? I mean, times are changing, people are changing, philosophies are changing. But my hope for this country is that there's no extreme leanings, that we can find some moderation, and I think we need that. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a push to, it's like the pendulum swings, right? And so I think there is a push for the pendulum to swing in the complete opposite direction that it's been in. And I do agree some movement is a good thing. I'm not sure it's good for the country to go from one extreme to the other. And I do think that Joe Biden sees that, but he's up against, he's going to have his hands full trying to convince some other people of that same moderation.
Billy's got me curious now about why he wanted to get away from politics.
Well, yeah, let's not go there. Let's just
okay.
Leave it at that.
Yeah, those pictures. Yep. So you have you've got like a forest. You've got wildlife and everything out there, right?
It's an absolutely beautiful place if you love Mother Nature. Lots and lots of wildlife of all kinds. Beautiful scenery. great weather too, but the winter can be long and hard. And we're kind of in the middle of it right now. Just got a 10-inch dump the other day.
Yeah. Wow.
Did you
That's usually powder. I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you snowshoe or cross country just right out your back door? Like, it looks gorgeous. And you sent
Right.
pictures on your Facebook.
Yeah.
That
All winter long.
gone.
Oh, yeah.
And skating, that'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Well, I'm disappointed in the skating because what happens is the sun is such a factor here at this elevation, okay, 7,600 feet.
Oh.
The sun is such a factor that after it snows, it will kind of melt that snow into the ice and then forget it. You can't skate.
Yeah. Right. But
where's your nearest neighbor? Joey? How close is your neighbor?
Well, what season? In the wintertime, my closest neighbor is about almost 2 miles away.
Whoa. Wow. So how much land are you sitting on? Like, what's your property line?
I've got 23 acres, but be thrilled to sell it to somebody. Or at least part of it, not all of it, just part of it.
Well, wait until after we visit before you sell it.
Where are you, Billy?
I'm in north central New Mexico, just south of the Colorado border. But, if this vaccine works, y'all come on down, definitely. I mean, it is a beautiful place. I'd love to share it with you.
Oh, boy.
It's been a long wait in Canada for the vaccine. It'll be a long time. Yeah. I mean, we have to come down.
Well, Tracy's going to get the bus going, but we're going to need more than one bus, Tracy.
Yeah.
We're going to need... There's Bill Williams. Hey, Bill.
Williams.
Billy.
Hey, guys.
Billy.
How you doing, Bill?
Doing well.
Hi, Bill.
Doing well.
Good.
So
Yeah,
Sam
Billy found
Fraser
a picture of
posted
Kerry Fraser playing a table hockey game with two other guys. I sent it to you guys. Yeah, gotta send it to Kerry. Put it on his Facebook timeline. That'd be good too.
Yeah, I know he's not a friend of mine. I tried to friend him and he didn't. He hadn't responded yet. So.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check if he's still a friend of mine. I dumped a whole bunch of Trump supporters who are really, really well, say obnoxious. I just didn't understand that when you invade the Capitol, it's not a good thing. But anyway, let's get away from that. But yeah, Kerry Fraser is a nice guy. We've met him at the ball hockey tournaments every year, and very friendly fellow. And I see him at the inductions too. Yeah, good guy. And Paul Stewart, I met him year 2000 at the NHL All-Star game at a party. So I didn't know until now that the year before he had that serious health issue. Good for him.
Yeah.
And Ron Hoggarth, well, we see Ronnie a lot, and he is one funny guy. Yeah.
Yeah, most of those guys are pretty good. We used to go out for a beer over at the what was it called? The Irish, right down near Air Canada Center, and they go out and the referees and linesmen would sometimes come over, and they're all a bunch of great guys.
Yeah. Dave Newell. We lost Ron Wicks, Bruce Hood, guys who used to come to our lunches all the time and tell great stories. So.
Paul, do you remember that Hockey Night in Canada game where they put a microphone near the penalty box when Bruce Hood was officiating and what Bobby Clark got caught calling him?
Yeah, Bruce talked about that where he called them effing QUER on national television, and then that was the last time they used that microphone, I think. No, he was told about it.
I'd love to know what producer thought that would be a good idea.
Well, we'll get Ralph Mellenby on. Maybe he'll tell us. Okay.
That makes for great television. You might as well. You might as well see reality. And I know we're talking about the National League, and it's far from where I was. But if you've watched the movie Slapshot, and I assume that you all have,
Yeah.
you have seen minor league hockey. The only thing is they cleaned up the language and they cleaned up the attitudes and they cleaned it all up. It's actually worse than what you saw, but it was great at the time.
Hey gang,
Well-
I'm gonna sign off because I'm hoping Jessica's still here. I'm sure she'd love a chance to chat too with, you know, and I don't know if Aaron's on as well, but I'm going to give one of them, hopefully they're still here, give them a shot at having a chat with you too.
I should do that too. I should give somebody else a chance as well, Laura, and you can work some new people in. That's a good idea.
You did a great job. Well done. Well done on the
Well done, guys.
inaugural.
Look forward to next
Thank
week.
you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye, Steve.
So long. Good night.
Night.
And also, I'm going to bow out. Someone else can have my spot
Mm-hmm.
because I can just smell it now. I have a pulled pork cooking in the oven.
But of
and
course
it's
you
ready.
did.
So it's ready to pull out now.
Oh, you.
What's your address again?
Yeah, I'm in Markham.
Certainly.
Wayne's the barbecue guru.
Send some of it south.
We've been to Great Wayne's
Oh,
place. We know.
You should have all kinds of items to pull down there, Bill. Like, don't you?
Well, absolutely.
You have cattle. You have everything down there. Yeah.
Roadkill. Nothing like roadkill.
Oh, well, yeah.
Do you have horses there, Billy? Do you have horses there that you ride?
I don't personally, but I got neighbors that have them. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. Oh, is that going to determine whether you come visit?
Oh, I'm coming anyway, baby. I'd love
Suzanne's planning her visit.
There you go.
Yeah, I see your love notes to each
Franklin
other
Barbecue.
on
That's in
Facebook,
Texas.
You know. Hey, Suzanne and Billy, your love notes when you put them on Facebook, we can see them. You know that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Love notes.
what are you going to do?
Good night, everybody. And
Wayne,
if you're,
show us a picture, Wayne.
Good night,
I'm sorry,
Wayne.
Paul?
You had a picture to show us.
Oh, that was just a barbecue book.
Oh, okay.
Franklin Barbecue in Austin, Texas.
I keep
Wow.
it right beside me.
Nice.
Well,
It's
Wayne
the best.
is an expert with the smoker as well as barbecue. He's giving me so much advice. It's amazing, and names of books and great spices and wow.
Well, I still need to come out and take a look at that backyard of yours because I can picture an outdoor kitchen out there. And I'm sure Michael would love it.
Yeah, you can bring your smoker too.
I could do that.
Yeah, that'd be great for sure. Well, let's hope this summer things can settle that we can all get somehow. I just don't know. I mean, well, I guess we'll wait and see, right?
It's a wait and see game. I'd love to do some more up here. Hopefully, it can be more people than what we had originally.
Yeah.
But
that was a good crowd there. That's for sure.
It was fun.
We're going to zoom it so Billy can see it out in New Mexico.
yeah, we can do that. Anyway, I've got to go. And if you were gonna do a little meeting tomorrow,
yep.
I'll be visiting my mom.
Oh.
In the home for tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm gone all day.
Well, hope she's okay.
Oh, she's fine. She's fine. It's just we like to get out there with COVID as much as possible because it does take its toll on the seniors.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, they have nothing to do.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I'm going to sign off too, guys. So, Paul, just let me know when you guys want to do the debrief.
Did we settle on a time tomorrow?
I don't. Well, Kevin's not on, isn't he? So that probably should.
No, we have to find out from Glenn when he's available, and I think Glenn and Kevin are talking maybe now.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah. I just made my notes to bring to it. So anyway, whenever, just let me know, and we'll try to, work all around everybody's stuff.
Yeah, you can send me the emails anyway, but I'll be even next week. I'm good.
Okay.
It's just tomorrow I'm not.
Okay.
I'm fine all day tomorrow. Jim Taddy wanted me to go on his podcast, whatever he's doing.
Good
but
luck.
that's not to be not tomorrow.
No,
it's going to be next week. He must be desperate for guests if he's asking me.
Yeah.
I'd like to have so much content for him, Paul. You can talk
maybe.
about your book. You can talk about
See you all later.
He's a good guy. Yeah, I like Jim Taddy.
Well, for sure. Well, we'll chat. I'll find out because I'd like to watch you. So that'd be great. Okay, y'all. Have a good, wonderful weekend, and we'll be chatting.
Take care, Susie Q.
Okay, bye, Billy. Bye, Billy Williams.
See ya.
Bye, guys. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.